Okay. So, what do you say we get started? Get the party started. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's 7:03, and I'm calling the April meeting of Bronx Community Board 8 to order. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura Spolter, and I'm chair of the board. As we always start, we start with our public gallery session. And I have my list right here. One second, I'm just getting something. Tanya, no, it's not necessary to share the screen with the agenda. Okay. Our first speaker is Barbara Connolly. Is Barbara on the line? She's speaking about the DOT plan. Do we have Barbara? Is Barbara on the line, Tanya? Barbara Connolly?
Yes, she is. She is.
Perfect.
She is.
Okay.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. My name is Barbara Connolly, and I am president of the Riverdale Gardens Tenants Association. Our development consists of 10 buildings with about 450 apartments, and it is located between 256th Street and 255th Street, right on Riverdale Avenue. And it continues 2 blocks west across Netherland Avenue to Arlington Avenue. Our tenants are concerned about the removal of a traffic lane going north and a traffic lane going south. We feel there is much more traffic involved in our area, especially in the morning and the evenings at certain times that only 2 lanes can handle. There are also 3 developments with garages that exit onto 256th Street, and the traffic going and coming down from Skyview that need access to Riverdale Avenue. Our development has a driveway for exiting our parking garage that enters onto Riverdale Avenue at 255th Street. And this is not on the plan. Riverdale Park, the co-op to the right of us, also has a driveway that exits and enters directly onto Riverdale Avenue. And that is also not on the plan or the diet. It's difficult now to merge onto Riverdale Avenue in the mornings. With only 1 lane, it would be extremely dangerous. Our tenants are also concerned about air and noise pollution. I don't know if any surveys were done to see what would happen if there was only 1 lane of traffic on Riverdale Avenue. And well, and in the mornings, and our apartments face Riverdale Avenue, and we have terraces that face Riverdale Avenue. And many of our tenants have emphysema and asthma, and they are worried about this. We're also worried about the whole community. We access Marshallou Avenue to get east to Broadway and the Henry Hudson Parkway and the Major Deacon, making Riverdale Avenue, those 3 lanes with that 1 merging lane, will force traffic onto side streets and that are not designated for heavy traffic. We're also concerned about what makes DOT think that 1 lane of traffic going south will have a break to let a car trying to make a left-hand turn west up to 56th Street, without a left turn signal light. In that same middle turning lane, you have traffic trying to turn right to go east down to 56th Street towards Neighborhood House, the library, Broadway. And they'll be crossing traffic trying to go north. I really don't understand this. We don't need a diet plan. We need a left turn signal light at the corner of 256th Street and Riverdale Avenue and 259th Street and Riverdale Avenue to get in and out of our shopping center and to make our community safe. We don't need a bike lane going nowhere when we have a good one on Broadway going to Yonkers. Please consider our concerns and do not accept this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Our next speaker is Lori Hogan, also speaking on the DOT plan. Is Lori on the call?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you great.
Okay, good.
Go right ahead.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to add in a few points that I don't believe were raised at the last meeting we had. Okay, and so I'll just go through them. One is in terms of the buses turning around at the city line. First of all, let me say that I live right near the city line. Okay, I'm looking out on the bus situation all the time. And I see that in the mornings at rush hour, particularly, there's an issue with the fact that there are so many buses coming in bunches, needing to turn around, that they often double park as they're waiting their turn. This goes from about 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning. There can be 7, 8 buses at that one intersection between the city line and 263rd Street. And they double park as they wait to turn. So there really isn't extra space in the roadway at that time in the mornings, which is when the busiest traffic is taking place. So I think that's very important to consider. And then here are some additional other points. One thing is in terms of emergency usage. There had been signage on Riverdale Avenue in years past that it is 2 things, a snow emergency route and an evacuation route out of New York City. I haven't seen those signs in a while, so I don't know if that still applies, but if so, I don't know if it's even legal to reduce the space on the street, to reduce the number of. Okay. So I think that would need to be looked into, okay? There are some other things that happen infrequently, but they do occur. Riverdale Avenue, it gets used as the southbound route whenever the Sawmill Parkway is flooded and closed. Mile of traffic comes over, and you can see it all the way from downtown Yonkers down to 254th Street, taking up both lanes of traffic going south. And another thing is that there's a gas station at the city line. There's a lot of traffic going in and out of there. He's got contracts for school buses, so they line up early in the morning. There's a lot of traffic here that hadn't been mentioned before. People going in and out, not only cars, but the school buses to get their refills, okay? And also going back to the emergency issue, these things may not happen often, but they happen. When we had the 2-week blackout up here after Hurricane Sandy, and there was issues with gas stations and, rationing of gas, the line to get into that gas station went all the way, same thing, from 254th Street, as far as I could see, up to Yonkers. So again, these things occur occasionally where Riverdale Avenue gets filled because of emergency situations. Also, there are movies being shot at the college, Mount St. Vincent, occasionally every few months. Traffic gets rerouted, they're filled with trucks, and sometimes they double park. For issues of this, I think the college be brought in on it, but that creates its own problems. And I noticed on the Transportation Alternatives website, they're saying that part of their mission statement is to facilitate mass transit. And I just think that as they take public funding, which they got during the pandemic, a huge amount, $800,000, that the public money should be used for influencing things in a way that, to make sure it doesn't go against public transit, as long as it to stay within their mission statement. So we want to facilitate mass transit, not impede it. And I think that narrowing the roadway up here would impede mass transit because of how much centers within that one block. And here's another thing. I noticed when you look at the injury rates and the fatality rates in the presentation that was provided to us, I was witness to a horrible accident that came at 263rd Street at the college entrance. Young guy came down Riverdale Avenue, about 80, 90 miles an hour, on his motorcycle and blew right through the red light and crashed into a car exiting or entering the college. And there's absolutely nothing you can do to prevent that, I think, in terms of changes, because people are going to be crazy like that. They're just going to do it no matter what you do. Same thing happened at in front of 6495 Broadway. Guy got killed on his ATV, an illegal ATV, turning into oncoming traffic. So part of the statistics may be foolish people doing things like that. And I don't think that narrowing or anything would help, except maybe more cameras and signage about the cameras. Because some cameras have been put in and there are no signs letting people know that. Okay.
Time.
I think
I think that's it.
I think the time, Tanya,
Yes.
are you timing?
Yes, I am timing. The 3 minutes are up and.
Okay, and thank you,
Okay.
Lori.
Done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Next speaker is Sue Dodell. Also
Hi.
speaking on the DOT plan. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Good evening. The March 31st DOT proposal to reduce the number of traffic lanes on Riverdale Avenue will cause further congestion and will not reduce pedestrian injuries. DOT's presentation to the board included a photo of East 106th Street in Manhattan as a quote, similar configuration, unquote, to what DOT proposes for Riverdale Avenue. I drove to that street last week and took photos which I've shared with the board. The street looked quite different from the pristine DOT photo. I saw double parked cars on both sides of the street, which completely obstructed the two bike lanes. And I saw a couple of trucks illegally parked in the middle of the street. Further, DOT's conclusions are flawed because improvements have been made to the intersections of Riverdale Avenue since 2015 to 2019, the time period referred to in its presentation, and because DOT's proposed changes may not address the type of accidents occurring on the street. I knew Arnie Hyman. He was remembered at a community board meeting on March 13th, 2012, soon after his death. May his memory be a blessing. I remember that the incident which caused his death occurred at 1 p.m. on a rainy day. A car was coming down 259th Street, making a turn onto Riverdale Avenue when Arnie was crossing with the light. This accident and others like it would not be prevented by DOT's reconfiguration. What probably would have prevented Arnie's death was the installation of a pedestrian-only walk period, which was in fact subsequently installed. DOT has made other changes since 2019, which likely have improved pedestrian safety. Let's ask DOT for data to confirm that. DOT's proposal also doesn't address the double parking problem on Riverdale Avenue. Under the DOT proposal, won't cars illegally use the middle turning lane when they cannot use the north and southbound lanes because these lanes will continue to be blocked by double parked cars? How many accidents will be caused by that illegal use? Before we reconfigure Riverdale Avenue, let's first get left turn signals northbound at 256 and 259th Street. Let's enforce our existing traffic and parking laws. And let's urge the state legislature to permit the city to operate existing speed cameras for 24 hours a day. And let's add other speed cameras. I urge you not to support changes to this portion of Riverdale Avenue. And I ask that you read the longer version of my testimony, which I provided to board staff yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. Next speaker is Chris Rizzo, also speaking on the DOT plan. Chris? Chris, maybe he's muted.
I am muted. Thank you.
Okay, you're on.
Thank you. Thank you to the Community Board and thank you to the DOT. I know that the Traffic and Transportation Committee spends a lot of time on these plans and these thorny issues, and I really do appreciate all the work that the Community Board does. I sent a letter in support of the Department of Transportation, Vision Zero, and the Road Diet on March 21st, and I'm going to read excerpts from that letter as my remarks today. I want to express my strong support for the DOT's plan to implement Vision Zero programs on Riverdale Avenue, including a conversion of the road from 4 lanes to 3 lanes, 2 travel lanes, a left turn lane, a parking lane with bike markings. DOT must implement these plans as soon as possible. I am an attorney who has worked for 20 years in the field of environmental law, often involving traffic analysis under SECRA, and I have served as a community advocate in Riverdale for 10 years, leading Riverdale's park organization and a civic organization for periods of time. Based on my professional and community experience, I am certain this upgrade of Riverdale Avenue is required. The facts: road diets improve safety and reduce accidents and injuries in literally every case that they are implemented. Sometimes as little as 15%, sometimes as much as 50%. Comprehensive data from both the Federal Highway Administration documents how road diets improve the business environment in places as disparate as the West End Avenue in Manhattan, the Eastern Boulevard in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been to both streets. They work extremely well. The data makes sense. Nobody wants to shop, dine, walk, park, or stroll along a street that feels unsafe or unkept. I understand that many community members in New York City and in Riverdale disagree with these facts. The burden of proof is on them to demonstrate why the data from the federal government, New York State, and the city of New York is faulty. I have heard from the Morris Park Business Improvement District, where a very similar road diet was implemented on a very similar street. The remarks from the director of the Business Improvement District were uniformly positive. The street is safer and the business environment has improved. Those are facts and those are real experiences. With regard to the law, the DOT is legally required to implement traffic calming measures on Riverdale Avenue, and its decision to do so is entirely defensible. That's because courts have repeatedly recognized when the DOT studies a street, finds that traffic conditions are unsafe, it is required to act and act quickly. Recent studies by DOT of Riverdale Avenue confirm these conditions. It doesn't take a traffic engineer to see the speeding, the accidents, and the unsafe conditions. This is not to say that the DOT is off the hook. It is not. The physical condition of Riverdale Avenue is abysmal, and I have respectfully demanded that the DOT resurface it as soon as possible. A lot of people have raised other issues that have to be addressed: safer crosswalks, timing, left turn signals, and a study of side streets for speeding. My house is on a side street. Speeding is a serious problem. I want to thank the Department of Transportation again for taking this issue so seriously and finally getting around to studying Riverdale Avenue. I want to thank the Community Board for making time, particularly the Traffic and Transportation Committee, for these thorny issues in the community. I know how much time it takes from you, and I thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Our final speaker is Sophia Rosario. Sophia, are you on the call from the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College?
Hi, yes, I am. And I'm also here with Rosa Cruz Cordero. And yes, we are from Centro, the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College. We're going to be playing a very short video, but I just want to introduce myself. I'm an intern at Centro. I'm Puerto Rican, and my amazing manager, my boss, Rosa, is going to be playing this video explaining a little bit more.
So there
How
are
long-
6 slides. There's 6 slides.
Greetings, my name is Rosa Cruz Cordero and I serve as Centro's Outreach and Partnerships Manager. I am excited at the opportunity to meet you and introduce you to Centro and our work. I do believe some of you know of Centro and some of our past initiatives, but the last 6 months have been a flurry of activity here at Centro, as we welcome the new director and introduced fresh research, arts, culture, and instructional initiatives and programming. Centro is a university-based research institute located at Hunter College, City University of New York. It is dedicated to the study and interpretation of the Puerto Rican experience in the United States. We house the oldest and largest Latino research and archival institution in the Northeastern United States. Centro is proud to work in partnership with 2 other research centers, the Mexican Studies Institute at Lehman College and the Dominican Studies Institute at City College. we come together to hold conversations and presentations that explore the state of Latinos in New York City to develop a Latino policy agenda that works to move our communities forward as one. In July, we welcomed our first female director, Dr. Yarimar Bonilla. She has sparked renewed energy and enthusiasm as Centro moves in new directions. The Library and Archive is Centro's crown jewel. The collections date from the 1800s to present and document Puerto Rican communities across the United States. On the bottom right, you will see a photo of Rita Moreno looking at a picture from our archive of her older brother. This was the first time she had seen a picture of him. You too can have access to our archive. You can look for a friend, family member, or work on a genealogy. Make an appointment with one of our librarians who will be happy to help with the search. Our librarians are also available to make presentations and conduct tours for your organizations, school groups, and after-school program. You may bring a group or schedule a virtual visit. Students of all ages and community members can learn how to use primary and secondary resources. In conversations with the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, we learned of the need for community organizations to learn how to collect their papers and prepare for archiving in order to safeguard their history. Last summer, Centro began making these presentations to organizations interested in the process. Feel free to contact us to schedule a presentation for your group.
Thank you very
Centro
much
Library and Archive
to
is located
Sophia
on
and the
the
whole
floor
team.
of the
Thank
Hunter
you.
College Silverman School of Social Work in El Barrio.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Thank you. Very interesting. Thank you. So that was our last gallery speaker. I see our councilman, Eric Dinowitz, is here. Eric, would you like to say a few words?
I am, and I would, and if you give me a sec, I'm gonna keep it to 3 minutes. Hello, everybody. Good to see all these faces on these thumbnails. Just a little update. I was at the Law, Rules, and Ethics Committee last night, so I won't go over a bunch of legislation. So on February 16th, the mayor released his preliminary budget. On April 1st, the council we gave our response to the mayor's budget. I'm on the budget negotiating team. I'm going to continue to advocate for the funding addressing issues pertaining to our schools, our quality of life, mental health, older adult support, and much more. I've been looking at the feedback forms that many of you have been sending me. It's not too late to share with me on the Google form what you'd like to see in the budget. If you go to ericdinowitz.nyc/budget feedback, ericdinowitz.nyc/budget feedback, you can share with me the issues that are important to you, and that'll help determine where I spend discretionary dollars, where I allocate discretionary dollars, and help inform me as I push for things in the budget. Tomorrow, the Higher Education Committee, the committee I chair, we're going to hold an oversight hearing on CUNY's single-stop successor programs. One of the things I talk so much about is that our schools, whether K through 12 or colleges, are about so much more than what happens inside the classroom. And these single-stop programs help students with their non-academic needs, whether it's food, legal counseling, healthcare enrollment, housing, so much more. If you want to give feedback about that, have questions about that, things you'd like me to bring up, go to ericdinowitz.nyc/council hearing. That's just for me. It's not the same as testimony. Other updates, last Friday, we had our monthly food distribution for older adults in the Amalgamated, and we served 57 adults. We continue to grow the number of participants, so look out for the next distribution in May. We also have our food distribution at the Riverdale Neighborhood House. That's open to anyone regardless of age. Our next distribution there is April 27th from 12 to 2. This morning, I was with the cleanup crew we funded, ACE. We did some work on Bailey and Van Cortlandt Park South by the stairs leading to the Amalgamated. We'll keep you updated on the progress. We had a wonderful street co-naming event that the community board a couple years ago supported. I put in for that legislation, I guess, in December, and we had our event Friday for John McKelvey Senior at Palisade and Independence Avenues. It was a wonderful event. I know a couple community board members were there, so thank you. On Sunday night, as many of you know, over the course of a few weeks, there's been a number of terrorist attacks in Israel, where 14 Israelis, Jewish or non-Jewish, have died. And we had a rally Sunday evening, Stand with Israel. Lastly, I just do want to address this traffic calming stuff. Those of you who were at the meeting heard the presentation. There's still information that we're waiting from the DOT. I've asked for it. The community board has asked for it. I don't think anyone argues that eliminating a lane slows things down. Just like eliminating all the lanes of traffic will eliminate all cars. The DOT, however, in this case, has disregarded all solutions. It's hard to trust them. You know, one of the things I brought up was calming measures, like turning calming measures. And they said at the meeting, they said that they have turn calming measures on Riverdale Avenue. But according to the map that's available on the vzv.nyc website, they have a traffic calming at 263rd Street, which does not address where their own heat maps of accidents show. So we're still waiting to hear from DOT the data and alternate solutions that work with the community. We are still waiting to hear whether they've reached out to businesses, whether they've reached out to the school, whether they've reached out to other residents. We are still waiting for them to do a lot of things that you would want a city agency to do in good faith. Engage the community, share the data, and listen to other solutions and not misrepresent the types of solutions that already exist on the lane. Other than that, I hope you all sign up for my newsletter. A lot of information in there. ericdenowitz.nyc/newsletter, ericdenowitz.nyc/newsletter, and social media for more up-to-date things as they happen. That's at Eric Denowitz NYC. And that's the report.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. We're going to move on to the report from the Bronx Borough President's Office.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Ish Gonzalez. I'm with the Bronx Borough President's Office. I just have a couple of here for you guys. So first and foremost, I just want to, as always, just remind you guys that the Borough President's newsletter was sent to everyone. So if you haven't received the newsletter, please feel free to reach out to me, and be sure to add you to our mailing so we can ensure that you're receiving those emails. Secondly, for all of the board members and new applicants that submitted their application, you can expect to hear back from our office right around the end of May into June regarding new appointments. So we should see some new board members, maybe right before the summertime, if not right at the beginning of the September meeting. Next, I would like to announce that the governor has signed or made an amendment to the open meetings law that has allowed for community boards, although we haven't had specific guidance as to what exactly it looks like yet, but to continue using online or virtual teleconference calls. However, we still don't know what that looks like, so we're still waiting to get some guidance from the Committee on Open Government. So once we receive that from them, we'll be sure to submit that over to you guys, and that would extend that virtual teleconference to at least July 1st of 2024. So maybe in just right years or so. And I would also like to announce that the the Bronx Borough President, we are going through with Bronx Week. As of right now, all things considered, we seem to be planning for a all-out full full Bronx Week. Sorry, it's been a long day. full Bronx Week. So we will continue to send updates in regards to that. That's going to be from May 2nd to May 15th. We don't have specifically yet. We haven't solidified the schedule as to what events are going to happen. But once we do, once again, we'll send that out to you guys. And the last thing I would like to announce to you guys is, unfortunately, I am transitioning. I will no longer be a member or the liaison, the community board liaison to Community Board 8. I'm now transitioning to a different position within the Bronx Borough President's Office. I will still be in the Bronx Borough President's Office, but now in a different capacity. I will be doing intergovernmental affairs. So I will still mingle with you guys. I will still see you guys, but in the next month, more than likely, you won't see me here. So I just wanted to give you guys the heads up. Although I started that position already, I still wanted to come and at least announce that so you guys are aware and hear it from me first. And that's all I have for you guys today.
Ish, we will miss you and wish you well at your new position, where we will continue to hunt you down.
Oh.
Definitely. But congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we have with us Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz. Jeff, please say a few words.
Hi. How are you, everybody? Hope you all hear me. I am running between live meetings right now, but I pulled over in my car safely. I'm not driving. So I just wanted to mention a few important things. One is I want to thank the board and everybody who spoke out on that poorly conceived plan concerning the road diet on Northern Riverdale Avenue. I don't think you did it yet, but I'm hoping that the board passes a very strongly and detailed resolution on this issue. I think it's really important that the community speak out, and the community has spoken out, I think pretty much with one voice on the issue. It's funny, I was just driving on Morris Park Avenue. I know about a week or two ago, somebody had said that it's a wonderful road diet. Things are better than ever. Well, that wasn't my experience just now. It wasn't terrible, but being stuck behind a bus in one lane when everybody has to go into the middle lane because into the striped area because cars are double parked, especially near the sheds, that the restaurants have. Doesn't look like a great thing to me, but anyway, I appreciate the fact that so many people spoke out on it. I wanted to mention, and I could talk a lot about it, but I can't do it now. But the state just passed the budget, and I will say that in all my years in Albany, this is literally, and I don't mean this in an exaggeration, literally the best budget we have passed for the people of the state of New York. The funding that we put in for education, and particularly foundation aid, for child care, for health care, mass transit, on so many areas, we were able to do a lot of really great things. City University, State University, this year. Not perfect. There were some things I didn't like. I don't like paying for a stadium in Buffalo or anywhere else for that matter. But a budget is it's a compromise among senators, the governor, and the assembly. And so none of us get everything we want, and none of us keep out everything we want. But on balance, it really was a big victory for our community. And anybody who says otherwise is just not being straightforward about it. Did we accomplish 100%? No, but in my book, 90% is a pretty good grade. The only, as I say, when people, say you only did 99%, you didn't do 100%, the only person in my life that could ever say that to me was my mother. But anybody else, a 90% or a 99%, it's pretty good, and we should be very grateful for everything that we accomplished, and we're going to start to see the effects of it. We're going to be sending out a newsletter in the near future summarizing a lot of the stuff that's in the budget, because I want to make sure that people have the information on what's in and what's out of the budget. But this was a budget well in excess of 200 billion. In fact, it was more like 220 something billion. It's a lot of money, but we have a lot of needs in our state. I'll leave it at that. I could always talk to people individually or at some other forum when we have more time. But in fact, I think I'm going to be doing something like that because I really want to make sure people have information. And the last thing I'll say, I think, is that we're doing a series of shredding events coming up in May and June. We did the last one in, I guess it was I don't really remember. Probably October. Maybe it was more recently than that. I did it in conjunction with the councilman's office and congressman as well. We're going to be doing it in several different locations, including 2 locations in Community Board 8. And for you hoarders out there, including myself, make sure you follow the dates, but we're going to get the information out there. And really, people are asking us all year round to do the shredding, and we are going to do it. And hopefully the weather will cooperate. So if anybody has any questions, that'll be great. Otherwise, just feel free to contact my office. So thank you all. Thank you all for your service, and especially our chair, Laura.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Thank you. Next is our report from the 50th Precinct. Is Captain Gervin on the line, or a representative from the?
There's a hand up.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Captain. We look forward to hearing from you.
Alrighty, so for our 28th day, we don't have any homicides. We had 1 rape, which was identified, and we have the hunt on for that. We spiked in robberies from 5 from 15 from last year. Felony assaults are up 16 from 9. Those are domestic related, and we made quite a few arrests on those. Burglaries were up from 10 to 6, as all crimes are here, mostly property. We did make a live burglary live burglary arrest. I'll try to stop speaking in police terms. We had a live burglary arrest the other day, 2 nights ago, on Giles Place at a construction site. Guy was trying to steal building material and tools. So that was a nice arrest in the neighborhood. Grand larcenies and GLAs, that's our bread and butter here in the 50th Precinct, and they continue to spike. 48 from 23 last year in the grand larcenies, and 29 stolen cars versus 13 stolen cars last year. And now, while we have large numbers of increases, our arrests of those 7 major crimes are that total for our crime complaints is 105% increase from last year. Our arrests match that. We have 100% increase in arrests for those 7 majors, as well as a 45% increase in all of the other types of crimes we have here. So we're meeting crime head to head here. We're deploying our people at the right places at the right times for the right reasons, going after our known persons of interest, and focusing on those crimes that we can address, quality of life, community complaints, and of course, our reported criminal complaints.
Thank you, Captain Gervin. We'll have time for 2 questions because we have a very long agenda tonight. Stephen Vasquez.
Yep. Hey, good evening, Captain Gervin.
Good evening.
So in regards to the GLAs, are these GLAs sort of like the same MO as they've been in the past, where the complainants are leaving their vehicles on and unattended?
Unfortunately, yes, we have a lot of them. Most of them are being stolen from residents on the street. But as I read the complaints, a lot of them are still, keys are either left in the car unattended, or the folks here in the Riverdale are just running in for a cup of coffee or a newspaper down on Broadway. It's something that, people can do to stop this kind of theft. And we put it out. Our community affairs crime prevention officer, Rasha Jamshir, she goes down on Broadway. She speaks to those drivers outside those locations, particularly around 225th Street. And she also leaflets. She leaflets the cars about, common practice so that we don't lose our cars here. And we're really losing them because, as you mentioned, people are leaving them unattended running. I know in the colder winter months, people like to keep the cars nice and cozy, warm, but it's not worth the theft of the car. Even if you lock in the car, they're breaking the windows, jumping into cars and taking off. And of course, the cars with the key fobs left in the vehicles. That's another one. They just have to get in the car, press a button, and it's a 50-50 hit for them, whether or not the car has a fob in it or not. And they're stealing them that way also. They're happening in both the eastern part and the western part of the precinct for the most part. As I spoke on other forums here in the community, we do have a dedicated midnight shift of anti-crime officers. We call them the public safety team. They're out there on the midnights, particularly for the car thefts, catalytic converter theft, rims and tires, as well as vehicle accessories. And in the past few weeks, we've made quite a few arrests, and to catch a GLA live is rare. But we were able, up on Marble Hill, we were able to get a catalytic theft team, all 3 guys locked up, and the 2 cars that they were driving were also stolen. So we had 2 cars returned to owners. We arrested them for the catalytic converter theft, and we took all their tools as evidence, among others.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Gervin. Seeing no other hands, well, thank you and stay safe, you and your whole team.
Thank you, Ms. Walter.
We're very grateful. So we'll move on next to the chairperson's report. Please refer to our executive committee minutes for my complete report, but I do have a few announcements. Yesterday, I received from the BP the complete list of members who did not reapply to the board. Paul Ellis, Diamaris Escania Bell, Courtney Dastis Galvin, Tracy Pardo, and Osvaldo Jimenez have not reapplied. And I want to thank them for their service. The street naming. Last week, I, along with board members David Gelman, Chris Calhoun, and Dan Paternak, attended the street co-naming at the intersection of Palisade and Independence Avenue to honor the legacy of John J. McKelvey, the architect of the beautiful Villa Rosa Bonheur, which was torn down a few years ago. The board was, I'm proud to say, part of that street naming process. I learned that John J. McKelvey was also involved in the evolution of Planning Board 14, which was the precursor to Community Board 8. So it was nice to honor his legacy. Very important, please mark your calendars. We have a new June date for our full board meeting. The Philharmonic is returning to Van Cortlandt Park, and as always, they schedule it for the second Tuesday in June. So our new date is Wednesday, June 29th. Wednesday, June 29th. The advantage of being so late is that we get a chance to easily vote on all the resolutions and not have to worry about anything in the summer. So a quick update on the status of our new office, which is located at 185 West 231st Street along the Broadway corridor. Due to construction and supply chain issues and design changes, our move is not anticipated until the end of 2022. I hope to be able to show everyone the design before too long. Fortunately, the early word, as Ish said, from the borough president is that we will be able to continue on Zoom, and we're waiting for the official announcement on April 15th, but it's looking good. Let's see, last week I accompanied members of the Bronx Council on Environmental Quality on a Broadway tour of the Putnam South Greenway, which incorporates Van Cortlandt Park and the CSX property. We wanted to check out sites that were written about in the ULURP and other potential sites. So many board members have expressed interest in this project that we sent out the notice today with links for registering for 2 very excellent events that I recommend. The Tibbetts Advisory Group. On April 19th, they're holding a remote meeting on the conceptual design. And on April 21st, they're doing a morning tour of the whole greenway and the property. So I encourage people, we sent that out today, to look at those links. And that is my report. Let's see. Next on the agenda is the treasurer's report.
And Laura.
Okay, Rosemary. Rosemary?
You're muted, Rosemary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's wonderful that there's a group so interested in CSX and the entire project. But would you mind, would you be so kind as to tell everybody when the community board is going to have a joint hearing, a joint meeting on this?
I leave
Parks
that
and
for the,
ENS
yes,
has the charter responsibility to deal with this issue, and I think they have a meeting coming up, which is important. So along with other announcements, I think that would be a good one too. Thank you.
I'm sure that Bob and Ramdot are covering that in their reports coming up shortly.
That's correct.
Yes. Anything else? Okay. Treasurer's report.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Community Board 8 Treasurer's Report for fiscal year 22, April. And I should preface this by saying that my report will be followed by a resolution pertaining to a budget modification. Heading 1, which is the operating budget update. Pardon me. Personal services, we have $73,722 left. That item covers payroll, of course, and everything else. The operating funds, we have $25,380 left for a total of $99,102. For item 1.1, other than personal services, I'll just point your attention to remaining 3246, and for code 600, we have parentheses 158. We ran over budget, and that is owing to cleaning services more than usual, wrought by the flooding and also the extra sanitizing and deep cleaning because of COVID. Item 1.2 is the budget modification. So if we could pull that up. We have $18,714 that was put aside as a cushion. But now as we're approaching the end of the year, we want to spend this money, and I'll just go over a couple of the line items. You see that we have provided for increases, for instance, supplies and materials, printing supplies, telecommunications equipment, and that's hopefully to facilitate the hybrid model that we're hoping that we can use once we're in September, once we rejoin in the fall. We also are providing for increases in expenditures for office furniture, and we also included the councilperson's grant, Councilperson Rodriguez, of $5,000. Okay, just as an explanation for how we came to some of these figures, we surveyed past budgets to try and conform with what had previously been spent, with the caveat that, again, remote hearings, cleaning expenses related to COVID and the flooding really couldn't be anticipated. And I'll add that next month, the May Treasurer's Report will provide for next year's budget so that we can provide OMB with a proposed budget in the spring rather than waiting, as had previously happened, until September. Okay, here if we could go back to item 1.3. We have 7415 in encumbered funds, and for item 1.4, rent and energy, we have $18,523 remaining. Okay. And with that said, I'd like to formally present the resolution to approve the April 22 budget modification. Madam Chair.
Before we go there, I do see 2 hands up, David and Dan.
Thank you, Kira.
May I?
David.
Yes, okay, thank you. Joy, you may not be able to answer this, or maybe Kira will be the one to answer this, but in the last couple of months, frankly, Dan and I asked some questions on 2 particular types of equipment. AV equipment that we could continue to do the online meetings, even if we go on public sites. And two, the security equipment to get personal entry rather than mechanical keys to the new office. Are they part of this budget modification, or are they still within the budget for by June 30th?
Sure. So David, I can answer that to the
Thank
best of
you.
my ability. Like I said last meeting, we had most of the AV equipment that we needed for hybrid meetings.
Okay.
There were a few little things that we needed, items that we needed to order after meeting with some people who kind of walked me through the process of hosting hybrid meetings that we've ordered, and we will use this. We put $1,500 into equipment as well. You know, if we find that we need more or upgrades, or if something isn't working out.
Very good.
Regarding the personal key touch for the new office, we've suggested that to DCAS. They don't recommend we purchase that right now. We've just made that recommendation to them. And that would be for in next budget, in next fiscal year purchase, if we did buy it.
Did they give a reason for it?
It was just sort of like getting ahead of ourselves. You know, we're working on a lot of the other pieces of the office, and they told me that DCAS covers security for every other new community board office. So that's what they suggested.
All right, I'd like to speak about this in detail at the next exec, because I've talked about this for months. But we don't need to go through it all with the group tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Dan.
Hi, Joy. I just have a couple questions for you. The first one is a basic one, and maybe I missed it. It looked like the original budget was about $4,500 more than the final budget. Do you know where that 4,500 went, like where it was allocated? It looked like it came off of like this ledger.
I'm gonna share the screen again.
Bear with me.
Maybe, I don't know where you're referring to, Dan.
So it's the itemized, I guess if you scroll down towards the bottom. Keep going, I'm sorry. Keep going. Keep going. Stop. So we've got the, you know, all the line items here, and then it looked like our original budget was 39,734. And then the final budget is 35,234. So I was just wondering, Joy, like where the 4,500 went from like the original budget that we had at the beginning of the year?
May I answer that? I have a feeling that it didn't calculate all of the line items there when I copied and pasted it over.
Oh, so you think it's just an
I
an
think
Excel
so.
error or something?
I
Okay.
can't say that right now, but I'm
Okay.
sure if I add all this up, that's where that we had some issues copying and pasting this from our other program that we used to create the treasurer's report. So Dan, I'll look into that with Joy,
Okay.
and we'll circle back.
Gotcha. And the second question, Joy, I had, and I don't know if you guys have had it, you know, we're kind of, obviously for your first year as treasurer, we're in the home stretch right now before June 30th. I was wondering if there were any preliminary discussions about where we were going to be spending whatever extra money we had that wasn't allocated. And if you have an idea about how much that is. And if there haven't been preliminaries, that's fine. I'm just wondering. And I don't know, Laura, if you want to jump in.
Kara and I haven't discussed that as yet. Are you talking specifically about just spending out before we deal with next year's budget?
Yeah, we, you know, we got to spend before June 30th, I believe. And perhaps Kira, you know, it's been a little while for me. I think we have to spend and receive before June 30.
Yeah, so Dan, this budget mod covers, you know, our cushion that we had in our holding code. So if you kind of just look at this budget mod, it gives a general idea of where we're going to be spending the money. Like we overspent in our cleaning line, so we had to put some more money in there. We have to spend the money that Councilmember Rodriguez gave us, so that we're transferring. We're going to be buying new office equipment, new furniture, like I said, the
So-
telecommunications. So this budget mod covers, and each year I do try to spend as close to our budget as possible with keeping our small office, and.
No, I get it. Absolutely. So that's why
wasted and
I
all.
guess, my question is, have there been, and again, we're talking generalities right now, but are we honing in on stuff that we're looking to buy?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I don't need
And-
specific items right now.
Yeah,
I just want to know
absolutely.
that we're on target to do it before June 30th.
Absolutely. And I've started ordering earlier than we have in the past because I found the past 2 years, we order a lot of our items from WB Mason and they may promise 2-day shipping. I learned in the past 2 years, it's not really 2-day shipping, it's longer. So I've actually started ordering already. But we've run out of money in our budget, so that's why we need to do this budget mod.
And would we, and again, we're in April now, so we obviously, there's a time, would we get an idea as board members of kind of what we're purchasing and going out as we move along?
Yeah, I in previous years, Roz and I put together, Roz, then Dio and I put together kind of a list for board members, just so you guys had an idea of what we were purchasing. I mean, it didn't give exact detail down to the nitty gritty, but I think like last year we ordered 50 new chairs, new tables, new laptops. So definitely, absolutely. In June, we'll be able to give that report.
Yeah, and I just, and as we look at that, again, I strongly agree with David there. I really hope we can get some good video teleconferencing materials for our board. Thank you. That was it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Joy.
thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
The rush
Can I
is
just
always on to
clarify-
spend the money. So we're
Hello?
going to put
Madam
back
Chair?
the resolution, Kira?
Yes.
Madam Chair, hello.
Joy, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify so I'm not missing anything. Dan, were you talking about other monies other than this 18,000 and change that we're looking to spend out?
No, it's essentially, and I'm looking at a small screen here right now. I know that you're going to have money probably within these line items that hasn't been spent yet. And I'm not sure, it's probably on another one of your graphs here. But as we get closer to June 30th, whatever we have left in these line items that hasn't been spent needs to be spent or we lose it.
Okay,
So that's kind of, it's a target conversation that, now, especially as we're getting towards the end, we really, I think we should be honing in on. And I've been in that position where you're rushing to race and buy equipment at the end.
Yeah, it's a mess, but each year I do start ordering earlier and earlier, and we kind of start this conversation in February. Me, the chair, the treasurer, and staff, we kind of put together a list of what we need, what we might need, what we think we're going to need. So that conversation is absolutely taking place.
okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay,
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Joy. Thank you.
Camelia, did you have your hand up before and I didn't see it?
Yes,
got-
Laura, I'm a little bit upset about it, but I don't
I'm
think
sorry,
there's
I got
anything-
I just saw a text and I apologize. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, but it was a question for each fairly important, but if he's out, I don't think I know he just stays in the beginning, but next time I would appreciate if you would have, I understand you cannot have your eyes on everything, but if you would assign somebody to have eyes, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Apologize. If you shoot the office an email, we'll forward it to Ish, Camelia. Okay,
Yeah, I'll contact him. Thank you so much.
okay, very good. Okay, the resolution going up,
Do you see it?
yes, okay, be it resolved. It's so close. Be it resolved, Community Board 8 approves the budget modification. I don't see any other hands. Is there any opposition to the budget modification? Let me see.
Laura, I think you need to take attendance first.
Yes. I know, very good. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Sylvia.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you. Sylvia Alexander,
Here.
Constance Barnes Watson,
Here.
Bob Bender,
Here.
Kelly Buford,
Present.
Chris Calhoun,
Here.
Joy Campbell Privatere,
Present.
Sebastian Chitolapoli,
Present.
Lisa Daub,
Present.
Margaret Della,
Present.
Margaret Donato,
Present.
Moses Semenya,
Here.
Bob Fanuzzi,
Here.
Nick Fazio,
Here.
Steve Fruit,
Here.
David Gelman,
Present.
Rosemary Ginty,
Here.
Julia Gomez. We'll come back. Ed Green. I'll come back. Rob. Myra Joyce.
Present.
Bob Kaplan.
Present.
Chuck Merdler.
Here.
Theodore Morris. I'll come back. Omar Murray. Omar, I saw you earlier.
Yes, present.
Okay. Dan Paternak.
I'm here.
Karen Pesh.
Here. Here.
Okay, I see you. Okay. Rita Proctor Lowe. Rita Proctor Lowe.
Rita was here before.
Yeah, I saw her too.
She's muted. There she is.
Okay, okay. You're muted and I still don't see her, but because the budget's still up.
Oh,
Okay, do you have me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
got you.
Okay, sorry about that.
it's
I
okay.
hit the wrong button.
Julie Reyes,
Here.
Georgia Santiago. I'll come back. Ramdat Singh,
Present.
Laura Spalter,
Here.
Camelia Tepelis,
Present.
Deb Travis,
Present.
Stephen Vasquez,
Present.
Sergio Villaverde, Marty Walpoff.
Here.
Okay, now I'm going back. Julia Gomez.
I think Julia
Ed-
Gomez had I'm sorry, Julia Gomez and Ed Green had like a scheduling conflict with work.
Oh, okay, thank you. Ted Morris. Georgia Santiago. And Sergio Villaverde again. Okay.
All right. We don't usually vote after the treasurer's report. That's why roll call is
Yeah.
later on, but thank you. Okay, district managers report. Kira.
Don't we actually
We
have to vote
vote on the
the-
Modification, yeah.
Oh, yes. All right, 1 second, people. You have to wait a second. I'm having another sip of coffee. Followed by a tranquilizer. Okay. So, as I started to say before, is there anyone opposed to this budget modification? Now let's go to,
Could I ask a last minute question
sure.
about the budget? I understand that the modification is the $18,000. However, there are no figures in the security tab and also the data processing equipment. Is that going to be it this year? I mean, is that being addressed at all?
Yeah, Sylvia, we put that into office equipment.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And we still have 2 months to make other budget mods, correct?
Correct, sure. If we need to, we're doing this one early, and we do still have May and June.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so I didn't see any hands opposed to the budget mod. Are there any abstaining? Anyone abstaining? So therefore, it passes unanimously. And thank you, Kira. Thank you, Joy, for an excellent report. Thank you for all the questions. Okay, moving on to the district manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank sanitation for year after year providing the pre-Passover dumpsters for the Riverdale Jewish Center. This is something that the community board requests each year, and sanitation does it without hesitation. I know the 50th precinct spoke about this, but I wanted to especially thank them for working really hard on removing a lot of the abandoned vehicles that we've requested throughout the district. They share a lot of their photos on Twitter if you want to take a look. I know a lot of residents complain about these abandoned vehicles all over our district. Some of you have reached out about the borough president required trainings. They're going to resume in the fall. Once we have any information, we will be sharing with all of you. Just to continue on the legacy recording studio at 6048 Riverdale Avenue, we continue to get complaints at this site, but we've been working with a multitude of city agencies like NYPD, DOB, Consumer Affairs, FDNY, and there is a partial vacate order because the property is not zoned for a recording studio. So I ask residents to continue to let us know what's going on there if you hear recording or anything like that, and we'll be in touch with the city agencies helping us out on that. The Irving Latimer Award for Community Service, the Betty Campbell Adams Award for most valuable merchant, and the Comeback Kid Awards will be announced soon, and we will have the ceremony in the fall. Please look out for emails with more detail. I have a meeting scheduled with New Bronx representative of the mayor's office this week, and I look forward to partnering with that office. I'll share with you any updates that I get it. Now I'm out of breath. I wanted to just thank the office staff, Tanya and Pablo, and Chair Laura Spalter for holding down the fort when I was out sick for last week and half of the week before. So it's much appreciated. I'm catching up on my work. So I appreciate it to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Camelia.
Could I ask a question?
One second. Camelia, is your hand up from before or
No,
now?
it's for now, Laura.
Okay, go ahead. You have the floor, sure.
Yes, thank you. Kira, I just wanted to say thank you to you and to all office staff for demonstrating to the community board that yes, it is possible for us to follow the open meetings laws. And now on the website, there is an agenda followed by the set of resolutions that the board is going to discuss today. So yes, we can. Also to all chairs now and in the future, I will keep a very close eye on this. It's something I became very passionate about. I think it's a scray issue. If the open meeting law says that we should post our resolutions on the website, they should be on the website. I acknowledge the fact that sometimes resolutions come in full board, but again, kudos to the staff for making it, for demonstrating that we can do it. If there is a need for internal adjustment to have resolutions discussed prior to be submitted in advance to the office, kindly do so, and just expressing my appreciation for the good work this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Camelia. And just so everyone knows, we've been following this since November when it was required. There were some growing pains. Obviously, we need to get the resolutions in time, but what we do is we post and we call it an agenda packet the day before a meeting. And again, we rely on Do It to do that for us. So sometimes it is out of our hands, but that's something that Pablo has been working on since the winter. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Sylvia.
Right outside of my window, there is a big project starting on the west side of between 236th and 235th. Is that a Con Edison project?
Yeah, Sylvia, if it's what I think it is, and forgive me if I'm wrong, it started out as a DEP project, but they had to do a commissioner's action to Con Ed. So we were waiting on Con Ed to get over there and fix something before DEP could fix what they needed to fix. But I'll check in on that and I'll circle back with you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, seeing no further hands. Report from the New York City Department of City Planning. Any representative? No, okay. Roll call, we did. Okay.
May I may I just make a point on the last point? I'd like the record to show that this is either the second or the third meeting of this board that city planning has chosen not to have a representative present to participate. So that the next time they come to us with last minute things and say they need our participation, I want to be in a position to show them that section of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Election of the nominating committee. Okay, we have many new members. The nominating committee is tasked with presenting a slate of officers and committee chairs to the board at least 2 weeks before the June election meeting. It's composed of 3 to 5 members. It's customary to read guidelines, so in accordance with our bylaws and ethical guidance manual, I'll ask Rob, our secretary, to read the guidelines.
Okay. In accordance to section 2, section 5, article 2, here I'm quoting, board members who are putting together a proposed slate should make their choice bearing in mind that it's both good policy as well as conducive to the smooth functioning of the board to strive for a nominating committee and a slate of proposed officers and committee chairs who represent diversity in geographic areas within the board, communities, ethnic and racial groups, professional and work backgrounds, and ages. The choices made should also consider the experience of any nominee as a board member and the extent of the interest shown by any such nominee in participating in board matters. These factors, while not meant to impel any particular individual choice, should always serve as a general guidance, end quote. So
Thank
Chair
you.
Spalter is going to state the nominating committee. Okay.
Okay, so the floor is now open for nominations. Please use the raise hand function. Okay, Bob Fanuzzi.
I'd like to nominate Julie Reyes.
Julie Reyes, do you accept?
Yes, thank you, Bob.
Okay, we'll put her name down. Lisa Dow.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to nominate Omar Murray.
Omar, do you accept?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Myra Joyce.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Stephen Vasquez.
Okay, Stephen, do you accept?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Margaret Della.
I'd like to nominate Dan Paternak.
Okay. And Bob Bender.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Steve Fruit.
Steve, do you accept?
Yes.
Okay. Bob and Lisa, your hands are up from before, I assume. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Bob, no, Dan, your hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, okay, that was from before. Bob Fanuzzi, your hand is up from before.
Move to close nominations.
Okay.
I see one more hand
I'm
up.
sorry, my hand is still up.
Rosemary's
I
hand
didn't
is
see,
up.
I didn't see your hand, Rosemary. Rosemary.
Okay, thank you. I think it would be very good to have the chair of our SCREE committee on the nominating committee. I think that's an important element, and I would nominate Margaret Della.
Margaret, do you accept?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other hands? Are there any other hands? Okay. Bob Fanuzzi has made a motion to close the nominations. Is there a second?
I see another hand up.
I didn't
Laura.
see a hand. Whose hand is up?
Julie's.
Oh, Julie. I'm sorry.
I just have a question.
Okay.
How many nominees do you have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6.
Okay, then I would like to withdraw.
Okay.
And then this way you guys have 5, and it's a good 5 slate, I believe.
yeah, the slate is 3 to 5. Okay, Julie, and is there, seeing no hands, is there a second on the motion to close in Ramdot?
I would like to second.
Oh, second, okay, so can we, is there anyone opposed to closing the slate? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Is there anyone, we're taking a vote?
That was
Anyone
quick, Kara.
opposed? I'm sorry. All right. Is there anyone opposed to closing the nomination slate? Is there anyone abstaining? Let me put this back on because I'm not seeing. Okay, so unanimously, we have our slate: Omar Murray, Stephen Vasquez, Dan Paternak, Steve Fruit, and Margaret Della. And I thank you for serving. And you will be meeting directly after adjournment tonight. I am asking the secretary to move this slate as a unified one slate.
I make a motion to cast
move-
one vote for the entire
Yes.
slate.
Yes.
I'll
And-
I
second
make that
it.
motion.
Okay, is
Second.
there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay, is there anyone opposed to the motion to have it in unity here? Okay, anyone abstaining? Okay, so we unanimously have the slate. I want to congratulate the nominating committee in advance for the work that they're going to do. And thank you all for your participation. I feel like that commercial, that was easy. Okay, we're starting with our committee reports and housing. I see Ted is not here. He's not been well. And so we'll move on to land use. Chuck? Chuck?
Okay, I'm here. I apologize.
No, and we have a resolution to put up on the screen.
Yep. Where is it? Okay. There has been some extended discussion concerning the request of DCAS to go forward and get our approval for a proposed ADA compliant accessible door, rear door entrance at the 5-0. Among the issues that have been raised were, why don't we have an accessible front door? Well, if you go in the front door, you have stairs in front of you, which makes it inaccessible. That kind of question, plus the fact that there is in the rear door area a grate, were issues that have been causing discussion over a period of 3 meetings. At the 3rd meeting, finally, we adopted the resolution you see on the board, answering the following questions. 1, with respect to the problem of the grate, they have come up with a grate that a wheelchair will not get stuck in, nor will a cane, nor will high heels. So that hopefully, if they are accurate, that solves one problem. With respect to the front door, that's a public issue, and we've asked them to take a good, hard look at it. The resolution is before you. If you have any questions, let me know. Oh, by the way, there's part of that resolution is the question of the intercom. In order to get in through the back door, there's an intercom which is hooked up to a desk inside the 5-0. And the problem was whether it would be high enough so that a person who is in a wheelchair or the like could reach it. And they've agreed to make that compliant so that that can be done, and to post signs in the front saying a accessible entrance is in the back. If there are no questions, and I assume there are, I'm happy to move the resolution.
Okay, let's see, are there any hands?
Amelia has her hand up.
1 second, okay. Camelia, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Just a very quick observation. When referring to NYPD 50th precinct, I believe we are missing actually the acronym NYPD. So I believe in the title and to other location, if you would be so kind and accept the friendly suggestion to add NYPD 50th precinct because this is their legal name. Thank you.
Okay, can we add that?
Okay,
Right, thank you, Chameleon. I don't see any other hands. Is
I
there,
move-
an-
I move it.
okay, it is moved. Is there any opposition, anyone opposed to this resolution? I don't see any hands. Is there anyone abstaining on the resolution? Okay, then it's unanimous.
There were two other issues that came up, and let me speak to them if I may for a minute. The first concerned two matters that have come up in the course of the legislative period. One is a proposal that was originally advanced by the governor in the budget, contemplating the effective elimination of single-family home zoning, which was, we are told, probably aimed at having a higher impact in this community and in Jamaica than anywhere else in the city of New York. It died. And the second one was a question that is going to continue, which is city planning's approach to equality in housing. And we have received now a proposed metric or device for getting the data on that. I looked at it quickly today. It didn't give me an awful lot of information, but I am going to ask Kira when she gets a chance to send that to, I think everybody in the board really ought to have that. So if you don't mind, if all board members get that, and then we can talk about it in the future. There is a third and interrelated piece. As you may or may not know, 421A is a device in and by which developers of buildings can claim tax abatement for a period of years on condition that they construct affordable housing. This is perhaps one of the most controversial pieces of legislation known to man. Why? Because it is something that assures a lot of developers of a lot of money. The last time we got into a brouhaha with HPD, which administers it, involved one of the Stag buildings, which was turned into a homeless shelter after they got the 421A for building affordable housing. In the course of that, I checked directly with the senior official at HPD, and it became very clear that instead of checking what affordable housing is and what the metrics are, all they bothered to do there is to see whether the application is compliant with the law, not whether it is substantively wise or the like. By that comment, I've just pointed to one of the problems with 421A. The second problem is that in order to fix what you can and cannot receive, there is a catchment area to determine what is the average or the annual median income for the assigned areas. So for the city of New York, it goes all the way up to the town of Greenburgh, picking up some pretty wealthy people and thereby increasing the amount of money that's allowed. And that takes you right to the third and critical part, what is affordable housing? And I will make a bet with you that what is viewed as affordable housing on the east side of Manhattan is not viewed as affordable housing in the South Bronx. And what is viewed as affordable housing in the Riverdale up the hill is not affordable housing in the South Bronx. It's a silly, badly contrived thing. And it is one that has to date been badly non-handled by HPD, which handles this. Bob has been focusing on that, and he and I have had some sidebar conversations on it. It was up for renewal. It was not renewed as part of the budget. It is the subject of conversation that is ongoing between the members of the legislature and the governor. Our assemblyman has been watching that, Jeff Dinowitz, and he and I have been talking about the bits and pieces of the problems I've just outlined to you very quickly. And this is a very controversial thing. Developers view it as a must-have. Stagg will tell you, if he doesn't have this, I don't know what I can do in terms of building. At the same time, some of the clients of my office who are Manhattan high-rise skyscraper developers will tell you exactly the same thing. And the real estate board will tell you the same thing, but it's a very controversial area of discussion. It needs at least 3 fixes in my view. One, to really fix the appropriate comparative area for what is affordable. What is affordable in zip code 10471 and 10463 should be different what is affordable in the South Bronx or in Harlem or in other areas. And what is affordable on the east side of Manhattan should not be measured against what is affordable in Bedford-Stuyvesant. It's wrong, it's unfair, and I would hope that the people who are on that on the equity committee focus in on this area. It is critical. If you do not have appropriate affordability, you're not going to have equal housing in the city of New York ever. Number 2, the next thing is, after you decide how do you measure affordable housing, where do you have it? How do you administer it? Where is it selected? When this was set up, it was set up in pari passu, essentially, with the Mitchell-Lama program. Mitchell-Lama was geared to more middle-income people, and the affordable was intended for the people who are 1 notch below or 2 notches below that, but not housing authority type of residents. And I don't mean to demean them, I'm just talking about the economic aspect of it. We've got to focus on that. Housing is the key to equality in this part of the country. It is probably the key to equality across the United States. It is the key to having decent shelter and homes which are fit for people and for living. So that's the second part. The third part is also how you manage and handle it. When it was put in that place, it was run by an independent board, run by a man who later became the chief administrative judge of New York, Herbert Evans, who lived right on the other side of the Broadway boundary with Yonkers. And he handled that, and he handled Mitchell-Lama. And there were no squawks on these issues. We got to get back to getting it properly run. So those are issues that we're going to have to discuss. We're going to have to discuss them, and we are going to discuss them in land use alongside of the equality issue that city planning proposes to focus on. This has just got to get done. I will tell you that, and I hope I'm not telling a tale out of school, but we have an assemblyman who is about the most responsive public official I have ever met, and I've met a lot of them. There is a great deal of sentiment among some members of the legislature to kill 421A altogether. I'm not sure it's a good idea to throw the baby out with dirty bathwater. So I think better that we fix it rather than just throwing it all out. But let's see what can be done. That is an issue that we are now going to dig into. We have a 3-person committee that is going to be working on this. They are Julie Reyes, who is a real estate broker and thus adds a dimension that's absolutely essential, understanding this viewed from the standpoint of the sale of housing. Rosemary Ginty, who to my mind is the outstanding expert on zoning in the city of New York. And I propose to add 2 more people. I am on it as well. And that is Dan Paternak, former chairman of Traffic and Transportation, a former chairman of the board, and Marty Wolpoff, so that we get that started. Later, as we get the basic ground rules of what we're looking at done, we'll open it up to people who want to function on it. So that is the second issue. And if I can just touch on the third for a moment, I see your hand, Marty and Bob. If I can just touch on the third issue, which is by way of report. Marty will report to you in a few moments about the stag issue. So I can hold up on delivering that, the stag issue on Riverdale Avenue. And that concludes this segment of my report.
Thank you, Chuck. I see now one hand, Bob Bender. There were other hands up before, but I just see now Bob Bender.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Chuck, thank you for bringing up this issue. First of all, my understanding is that the 421A exemption expires at the end of June. So there is a timetable on this. It has to be, if it's going to be renewed in whatever form, that has to happen before the end of June. So there is a clock that's ticking in the background on this issue. The other thing I wanted to say is thank you very much for focusing on affordable housing. It is the only alternative there is to homeless shelters. If we don't have affordable housing, we're going to have a homeless problem in the community, in any community. And 421A is intimately connected to the question of affordable housing. So this is really a critical issue for the community board, for the community, for the city as a whole. And I'm very glad to know that you've put together a working group to address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Marty.
Yeah, I lowered my hand because I thought Chuck was going to pass the baton. But
I did.
Well, you mentioned it, so that's why I dropped the hand. Chuck set up a working committee, which consists of David Gelbin, Chuck, and myself. And we also have a resident who lives next door to the Stag site, Mark Gutfeld. And we've been meeting with Jay at the site and getting a sense of what's going on and trying to represent the community's interest to the best that we can, knowing that as of right, he can do almost anything that's legal, but we want to make sure we have our hand in the process. So I gave a report at the last land use meeting. I should have done it already, but I will submit to the board office and send everyone the outline of all the areas we have discussed. And if there are any issues that you see and think we should be talking about and need more information about, please contact me.
Thank you, Marty.
Let me just add a footnote to Marty's report. I never thought I would say it, but there has been cooperation, plenty and consistent with the Stag group going forward on this. Hopefully that will continue. They have been mindful of the issues as they've been raised involving traffic, transportation, and the like, and they have been cooperative. And I just want that to be clear. And that is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Moving on, Marty, law, rules, and ethics.
Yes, thank you. We had a long and fruitful meeting last night. I just want to touch on a couple of items that I think the board should be aware of, and then move on. My minutes will be far more extensive than the comments I'm making right now. We had two guest speakers, and I wanted to jump in the beginning when Eric spoke, but Eric was our first speaker last night and talked about the legislative process in New York City City Council. And he was very helpful. Each month I put out a legislative spreadsheet so that at least my committee knows what the City Council is talking about. And Eric really put the finishing touches on it so that we have a better understanding. I also had last night Alex Kipp, who has been with us before. He's from the Conflict of Interest Board. And I asked him to talk about 3 subjects, which he did. He talked about the issue that we received about a month and a half ago from the Borough President's office, warning all community board members the dangers and the violation of the city charter if we're not careful about getting involved in political, anything involved in politics. As an individual, everyone has the right to do as they choose, but as a member of the community board, you cannot involve yourself as a community board member or imply in any way that your role as community board member is part of your political involvement. We talked about the Mayor's Commission on Racial Equity, which is going to have 3 ballot issues, 3 ballot items on the November election. And the question of whether or not the board can be involved in this. I don't see that we're going to have a position, but as Rosemary pointed out a couple of years back when the city charter was being revised and the issue of community board term limits was part of that city charter revision, there were boards all over the city, including me at that point, who wanted to make a statement of some kind. And the New York City Law Office advised us it was a taboo. We could not get involved at all. So there's no intention, as far as I know, or need to get involved with those 3 ballot issues. But the thought that we had initially was that perhaps any one of the committees who looked at those ballot issues might take that as a jump off point to become more involved in that particular issue. And finally, with respect to Alex, I want to note the issue I have raised for several months and have not been able to get an answer from COIB that satisfied me. And that was the issue of why a community board member in District 12 in Manhattan was fined $1,500 for, quote, representing her employer at a community board office, at community board meetings, and she was a community board member. What's the difference between representing and discussing? Under the 3 Ds being if you have a conflict of interest, you have to disclose that you have the conflict. You have to, you're entitled to discuss it, and then you do not vote. Alex made it very clear the facts as to why this particular person was fined for violating the city charter, because, and this is an extreme with what she did, is that she was employed by an agency in the district for the sole purpose of being a representative into governmental communications or whatever. And so her role as an employee became her role as a board member, and that was taboo. So the issue before us, and we have not run into this in our board area, in our board at all, there are people who have conflicts as issues come up, and they recognize they have a conflict, and as a result, they follow the 3 Ds. They've disclosed, they've discussed, they've not represented, they've discussed, and then they do not vote. If someone, and this issue is for everything, if you feel you may have a conflict, then you're advised to contact COIB, and they're more than willing to clarify the issue for you and tell you if you have one or don't have one, and whether you're allowed to vote or not allowed to vote. So I recommend that if anyone thinks they have a conflict, I may be of help, but I'm not the bottom line. COIB is. And I just want to touch on the fact that 2 things. Last night we discussed and finally pushed forward a set of guidelines on what chairperson should consider as to how to run their meetings. It's their meeting. They can decide what they want to do or not do. But the idea that the public is aware of what to expect at every meeting, or at least know at a particular meeting what's going on, we think is valuable, and so does the Committee on Open Government, COG. And so in the next executive committee, I will present that. And then if it goes from there, we'll present it to the full board for discussion and adoption, hopefully. Not a vote, but adoption. And finally, an issue came up in the last couple of weeks of great consternation. And I'll try and be as general as possible, but give you all the details. The question was and I want to be clear, the question came up that at a committee meeting, a resolution was suggested. It was not written form. It did not come prior to 24 hours before. It was a resolution that evolved from the discussion that took place. Chairperson of that committee then developed a resolution and shared it with the executive committee, but some members felt that a single statement of "we don't like what you did and we're turning you down" was insufficient, that the resolution should have some whereas clauses as to why we feel as we did, and probably more importantly, to show respect for the community who expressed why they were against this particular issue. And so that was the chair was asked to redevelop that resolution before it came before the committee. There was some question as to whether or not that was legit, allowable. This chairperson spoke to one or more members, we'll come back to that, in the course of redeveloping that resolution. I contacted the Committee on Open Government, and Kira, are you there? Can you just flash that? I hope.
Marty,
I was
would you
in
like to share the screen?
Yeah, Tanya's gonna share her screen with it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not at home, so this is not easy for me to operate. Okay, what you have here, I'll rush to the point. This is the response I got back from Committee on Open Government, affectionately called COG. And that is, they have no particular problem. There's nothing in the open meetings law that will prevent a chairperson or someone to contact one, two, whatever number of members of the committee for input as they wordsmith. They cannot change the resolution. They cannot veer from what the committee had voted for, but they can develop the whereases, and particularly that's what this comment says. The issue before the executive committee, as this was evolving, a discussion last week, was that if there are, how are people contacted? You're allowed to contact one-on-one. You cannot have a meeting. You have a meeting that requires a public notice, and the board, the public has the opportunity to observe what's going on. But if you're going to talk one-to-one, as this letter tells me, that's satisfactory. But the issue that came up is there a critical mass at which point it's not one-on-one, but you're basically having the whole committee discussed or being involved in the issue. And that seemed to have raised some questions. My position at this point as parliamentarian is that this was appropriate and this should take place. And I'm using this letter from COG as the basis for why I'm making this judgment. But I do believe, and it's been pointed out to me, I do believe there's room for discussion. And so at the next executive committee, I want to go over this process and determine whether or not we should establish, and we should establish some protocols That's what's allowable and what's not, so there's no confusion in the future. So at this point, I will stop unless there are questions.
Thank you.
I don't see any hands. I want to thank you, Marty, for all those details. And I'm going to move on to Parks and Recreation, which, if there's no objection, Parks and Recreation and ENS are going to give their report jointly. Okay, so
Great.
go ahead, Ramdot and Bob Fanuzzi.
Hey everyone, good evening. We had a really good meeting about our budget priorities for Parks and Recreation. You know, the weather is getting warmer, and we have seen a lot of graffiti issues in our park during the winter time. And you know, we anticipate there's going to be a lot more graffiti issues. So if you are in your parks and you see graffiti, please put in a ticket in 311, and then just forward that ticket over to the board office. Parks has been really good with and responsive to cleaning these graffiti in a timely manner. So, you know, we want to make sure that the graffiti cleaning is, you know, constant, and, you know, we keep our parks clean and graffiti free. And our next meeting is April 27th at 7 p.m. So please join us. And last but not least, the Tibbetts Advisory Group is hosting a virtual review on April 19th. And, you know, I urge all of the committee members and the CB8 members to also attend so they can see a draft plan. And I will defer the rest of time to Bob Fanuzzi to talk about our joint meeting.
Thanks, Ramdot. I can't urge and encourage enough participation in the Tibbetts Advisory Group dates that many people have stated. We've sent out registration information, and I'll explain why this is so critical. The 19th, you're going to see a conceptual plan. The 21st, there is going to be a walk. And at both occasions, DEP and DPR will be taking community input and modifying what you see as a conceptual plan. We have also learned that the joint agencies will be coming to the community board for the presentation of a public design commission plan to be sent to the Public Design Commission on June 17th. Okay, so I asked for a joint presentation of the public design plan that's going to be actually right to the public design, the application at the end of April. Okay, a joint meeting at the end of April. DEP and DPR will not have time to modify what you see on the 19th and discuss on the 21st in time for an end of April meeting and an end of April and a May community board full vote. Okay, so we are going to have a joint meeting of Parks and Parks Committee and Environment and Sanitation on the 25th. Okay, that will be a
That's
voting item.
May 25th.
May 25th. That will be a voting item that will have a stipulation in the agenda that votes of the committee will be taken. Okay, the 19th and the 21st are non-voting, but crucial opportunities for community board members to see and to suggest, and I'm sure we'll take all the comments that come in between the 19th of April and May 25th. And I'm sure even at Ramdot's meeting that he just mentioned on the 26th, I'm sure people will want to bring up their comments. I think that's a great opportunity. Now, the 25th is a voting day. Now, because Chair Spalter described the late community board meeting in the end of June 29th, we will not be able to vote for the Public Design Commission submission. But I am going to speak to the Public Design Commission, and I'm going to say the following. They either have to accept a resolution that we submit on June 30th, that's the day after our vote, or they have to pass this over, lay it over until the next month. So at our next board meeting, I will bring that strategy to this board, because although we are going to have a joint meeting on the 25th, whatever opinion we offer, whether in the form of a letter or committee resolutions, will by definition be a minority opinion of Community Board 8, and that will not suffice. So we are endeavoring right now to speak to PDC about allowing the submission of our resolution on the 30th in time for them to put this on the agenda for July. If they say, no, you can't do that, then we will hold up the works and submit and force them to judge this the following month. So that's our timeline, everybody. And it's really crucial that we keep our eye on the calendar, the 19th for feedback and information, May 25th, the joint meeting at which a vote will be taken, full board vote on the 29th of June on daylighting and green light. This is a conceptual plan. So that's my report. And we have already met, ENS will be meeting, has already met in April. Like I said, our meeting will be held in May with on the Parks meeting day on Ramdat's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Rosemary, your hand is up.
I'm speechless. I really am. I'm speechless. I don't understand. I do not understand the process. I do not understand that because there is a meeting with a private, I'm sorry, I can be heard? Yes, okay. I don't understand why there is a private meeting on the 19th, and that because of whatever that meeting is, which is not the community board meeting, that there isn't time for them to amend the plans to meet our schedule. I don't understand why, who's driving the bus here? Really,
DEP is driving the bus. That's who's driving the bus. It is not a private meeting with private parties. It's a public meeting.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, can I have the floor and then give up the floor and everybody else can speak? Would that be okay?
Done.
Okay,
Go ahead, Rosemary.
good. So I am I am speechless with this. I do not understand how a private group can have outside of the community board structure can have a meeting which is fine, but that somehow what comes to the community board is put off because the agencies don't have the time to accommodate the questions and comments they get from a meeting on the 19th, which is not a community board meeting. I am speechless. This community board should have a full presentation by both agencies. How many times have I said this? And I trust that will be on May 25th. I'm sorry that there's calendars bumping into each other, but if it cannot be held before May 25th, that is the date that this community board will hear from two city agencies about what the proposal is. Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me to speak. I give up the floor.
Okay, I'm confident that after May 20, I'm confident of one of two things. PDC will lay over or that hearing, or DEP will not be ready. And because they turned down April for us, it behooves them to lengthen their public hearing date into the summer. And I'm confident that that will happen. Anybody, any other hands? Dan?
Hi, Bob. Just 2 quick points. You know, we discussed it exec last week, and I just kind of want to express it with the board as well. And I know you guys know what we've seen so far, at least from Parks and DEP, seems very preliminary. It seems like we have the mapped out of where, you know, the day lighting is going to be, and it's great. And I would say for the most part, everyone is in support of this project. You know, we've been fighting for it for quite a bit. But what we don't really have is any design features regarding, you know, the area around it, the parks, the entrances and such. And I just, you know, I would hope that, and maybe you guys can communicate with the agencies the concern of not having any details when they do come to us in May, especially since, you know, we're supposed to give comments to PDC about those designs. So if we can just express in a strong way as possible to the 2 agencies that we really want to see something in front of us when they do get here in May, and what they sent to us or showed to us back in December, we view as very preliminary.
Yeah.
And I think it's just something we really need to convey to them, because again, I think everybody wants to see this happen. So that's just the point 1. And I think we're all in agreement. So if we can get that message out to the agencies.
Thanks, Dan. That makes sense.
And second, and just in question, you know, I'd asked a few months back about the issue with the JPR connection, and I had read a response that was in the ENS minutes. And the question I have is this: in that response, it stated that as part of this project, they want to build a chamber over, you know, where the daylighting at Peace meets Van Cortlandt Park South.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, and this is the important part, is that they want to be able to discharge clean water from the Jerome Park Reservoir. And I guess that's my question. As part of this plan, are they now introducing to put clean water into Jerome Park Reservoir? And the importance of that is that, you know, for a long period of time, we've been asking for, you know, open access to JPR. And, you know, one of the things that was in there was, you know, it was my understanding, and maybe something's changed, that there was no clean water going into JPR.
Yeah, Dan.
It was really just kind of like a tank. So as they're coming to us and part of this project, I don't want any surprises.
Yeah.
Can we find out from DEP if they're planning on making a change so that there will be clean water into the Jerome Park Reservoir as part of this project that they're going to be working on?
Fair enough.
Thank you. That was number 2.
Thank you, Dan. In light of, so May 25th is the voting day, but nothing really stops us from basically asking for a repeat of what they're doing on the 19th and the 21st, and even at a community board meeting without the pressure of voting, because it would be nice to have 2 bites of the apple, so to speak, and to have our chance. So nothing would prevent us from asking them to come and basically be doing it a 3rd time. You know, if we go over the 19th, we go the 21st. And Laura, Ramdot, you and I can talk about whether we want to do that, because it would give, it wouldn't be changing much, obviously, because it's from the 19th to the 27th, okay? But it would give some feedback for a more comprehensive voting item at the end of May, the May 25th date, okay? And what I heard from DEP is they want to be inclusive, and they want to be receptive to community input, and maybe we can get a community board meeting without a vote, so to speak, to get some feedback and questions like Dan and access before there is a voting item and before we have to really give thumbs up or thumbs down. If you think that's a good idea, Laura, Ramdot, we can work on that.
I want to feel confident that what they show us on May 25th is the design that they ultimately are taking to PDC.
Yeah, there can be no modification after the 25th, really.
Well,
because-
the PDC always modifies. They're gonna put a great deal of time into this, and I have a feeling they're gonna require them to come back. But the point is, on May 25th, if they don't have their final design that they're taking to PDC, they ain't going to PDC when they think they're going to PDC.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's that. And we're going to be pushing and writing all the agencies that, you know, that we want our timeline respected, that we have to have a full board vote, and that we have to have that plan. And
Yeah.
between May 25th or, you know, or before, and the time June 29th that we vote, we're gonna have a whole month to look at that. Okay, and that's what I
Yeah.
envision, complete
So that,
transparency.
yeah, so those, to repeat, those Zoom meeting is a public meeting held by DEP, okay?
And parks.
Community board members are, and parks, community board
Yeah, well,
members
that's
are
why I
invited.
sent it around to get as much, you know, this is, every community board will be able to, every member will be able to talk and have their comments. You know, it's like having several bites at the apple. I think this is very good for all the stakeholders.
Yeah,
But I see two more hands and the hour's getting late. I see Rosemary and then Ramdot. Rosemary.
No, is my hand up? That's a mistake. Sorry.
Okay, all right.
What the
Ramdot.
hell? Sorry.
No, Ramdot.
Laura, last point. The 19th is the virtual review and the 21st is actually a site tour. So you
Correct.
know, we're getting a virtual and also like in
Correct.
person site tour.
Correct.
So I just want to differentiate between the two dates.
And when they get all the comments and they see how screwed up, how difficult it is, I don't know that they're gonna go to PDC until August. But anyway, we will be fighting for what we're entitled to be sure. I don't see any other hands. I'm gonna move to public safety and thank you all for that. Public safety. Myra,
Yes.
for Ed, he's working tonight in the
Yep.
subways. Okay, Myra.
Okay, so we have two pretty straightforward, one SLA application, one a renewal for the Blackstone Bar and Grill on Riverdale Avenue, and a new application for an establishment yet to be named that's going to be on 220 West 242nd Street. And so needless to say, for the Blackstone Bar and Grill, are no problems there. They're a very popular location. And the Public Safety Committee voted voted unanimously to approve their renewal. The new application was in a spot that was a problem with the NYPD, with the 50th precinct. But the new owners and management have absolutely nothing to do with the former owners. So this is basically a brand new establishment. They signed the 2 a.m. closing agreement, and they are totally fine with that. And again, we voted unanimously in favor of their new application. So if we may put this to the board, both of these applications at the same time.
Yes, of course. We do it as a package. We all
Yeah.
drink to that. Okay. Is there any opposition to the motion to approve the liquor licenses? Any opposition? Is there anyone abstaining? Okay, so it unanimously approved. Okay, Myra,
Okay.
anything else?
Yep. So the second resolution has to do with us, the community board, writing a letter. And I know Ed went over this at the executive meeting, but I will just explain that Caribe Bites Bar and Restaurant submitted an application to the SLA, which was fine and it was approved, but they failed to include that they would be playing recorded music and karaoke and live music in the initial application. All the SLA is requesting is a letter from the community board stating that we are approving their addition of this music onto their application without them having to resubmit all over again. So it seemed pretty straightforward to us that just to approve the writing of a letter. So that's basically what this resolution is.
Okay, we'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed to this request? Anyone opposed to the resolution?
I see Margaret Della's hand.
Okay.
Well,
let me-
it's
Can I
gone now.
just wanted to ask a question.
Sure.
I'm
sorry.
For this entity, is this the same entity, Barcelona Bites? I know it's adjacent to where it used to exist, but like, is it the same owner? Does it have anything in common?
No,
Okay.
brand new people.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone abstaining? Unanimously approved. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and one more thing, our next Public Safety Committee meeting is 1 week from tonight. Our guest speaker is the Bronx County District Attorney, Darcel Clark, who will be speaking on bail reform and its impact on our community. So it should be an interesting night.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Myra.
thank you.
Okay, moving on to traffic and transportation. Deb.
Thank you, Laura. First, I just want to say our hearts go out to the 23 people who were hurt today on the during the shooting on the R train. It was just such a tragedy, and our hope is for their speedy recovery, both physically and mentally. I guess we should start with the Riverdale Avenue safety resolution. And I thought it would be helpful for me to introduce it a bit while Carrie gets it queued up. At the March 31st Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting, DOT presented a plan to improve street safety on Riverdale Avenue from West 254th Street to West 263rd Street, the city line. The plan would change Riverdale Avenue from 2 11-foot travel lanes in each direction to 1 11-foot travel lane in each direction with a 10-foot left turn bay in the center. It would also add 5-foot bike lanes going in each direction in the median on the sides between the parked cars and the new travel lane. The stated reason DOT is proposing these changes to the roadway is because this stretch of Riverdale Avenue has a disproportionate number of injuries. And according to DOT planners, 55% of pedestrian crashes occurred when the pedestrian was crossing with the signal in their favor, and 58% when a driver was making a legal left turn. Riverdale Avenue has a large number of seniors and children, and Mayor Adams and the DOT Commissioner Ydanis Rodriguez have made the safety of seniors and children in particular the highest priority, since they're more likely to be seriously injured or killed when they're struck by a vehicle. According to ProPublica, a senior or a child struck by a vehicle traveling 30 miles an hour has a 37% chance of being killed. And if that vehicle is going just simply 40 miles an hour, their chances of death jump to 70%. The resolution came from the floor, and so does represent the majority opinion of the committee. I will read that now. So, whereas the Bronx Department of Transportation you're gonna give me a sec. Let me read it. Presented on March 31st to the Bronx Community Board 8 Traffic and Transportation Committee a street safety plan for Riverdale Avenue between West 254th Street and West 263rd Street, the city line, which would involve converting 4 travel lanes to 2 travel lanes with a left turn center bay and bike lanes on each side of the street. Whereas in October 2017, the North Riverdale Merchants Association presented its streetscape report of a similar design, which was rejected by Community Board 8 in December of 2017. Whereas in January 2018, the Community Board 8 received notice from the Department of Transportation that, quote, DOT does not have plans or studies underway to implement these conversions recommended in the streetscape report, and DOT will take the board's comments into consideration as we review any future proposals, end quote. Whereas Bronx Community Board 8 was not involved with the planning process nor was the public able to review this plan prior to the presentation. Whereas Riverdale Avenue is the main commercial and travel artery in North Riverdale and home to many businesses, including Skyview Shopping Center, many schools, including PS 81, St. Margaret of Crotona School, SAR High School, and the College of Mount St. Vincent, 2 houses of worship, a post office, many co-op buildings and private residences, and 6 city bus lines, including the Metro North Rail Link. Whereas the board has not received additional traffic studies as requested, and accident data provided is from 2015 to 2019, predating impacts of 2 speed cameras installed at PS 81 and St. Margaret of Crotona School. Whereas more than 200 people attended the March 31st, 2022 Traffic and Transportation meeting, and the overwhelming majority were opposed to DOT's plan and raised many issues about the adverse impacts of reducing 4 travel lanes to 2 travel lanes, severe traffic congestion due to 6 city bus lines, double parking during school drop-offs, school buses, and truck deliveries. Whereas the plan does not account for problematic merging of traffic at 254th Street when cars exit Henry Hudson Parkway and Henry Hudson Service Road, and at 263rd Street, where city buses must turn around and often double park, and traffic from Yonkers, which has 4 lanes that must merge with 1 travel lane going south. Whereas to improve safety, Bronx Community Board 8 has long endorsed Assembly Member Denowitz's request that DOT install left turn signals at 256th Street and 259th Streets northbound, and we urge that this be done first before making major changes to the Riverdale Avenue design. Therefore, be it resolved, Community Board 8 rejects DOT's proposal as presented.
Thank you, Deb.
Yep. The resolution generally summarizes what was discussed at the meeting. There are a couple of items that I wanted to clarify. The first is, while the North Riverdale Merchants Association, now called the Main Streets Alliance, first raised this issue in 2017, the number of deaths makes clear that this corridor should rightfully be a priority. And we thank the Main Streets Alliance and State Senator Biaggi for being engaged in making our community safer. During the meeting, DOT stated the current configuration of the roadway does not qualify it for left turn signals. However, if there is a center turn bay, that could change, and the Riverdale Avenue could qualify for the left turn signals. If DOT makes these changes over the summer, as they have stated they plan to, then T&T will plan to request the left turn signals at West 256 and West 259th Street as follow-up items. The data which was provided by DOT on the number of injuries on Riverdale Avenue was from January 2015 to December 2019. To be clear, during 2015, 1 senior was killed at Riverdale Avenue and West 258th Street, and another senior, Beatrice Kahn, was 89 when she was killed, was struck at West 263rd Street and Riverdale Avenue. And that happened in 2018. Beatrice was crossing the street during lunchtime and was struck by a woman making a left turn on Riverdale Avenue. In the time period reviewed for this project by DOT, 66 people were injured in crashes on Riverdale Avenue, 27 of them pedestrians. There were 3 fatalities in all during that time, and 3 people were severely injured. It's unclear why DOT used this particular time period. However, the first speed camera was installed in 2013, according to the Riverdale Press, after DOT discovered that 96% of drivers on Riverdale Avenue were exceeding the speed limit. I looked up the period from January 2020 to today, just to provide that data, and the situation is not that different. In the last 2 years, there have been 22 people injured, including 7 pedestrians and 1 bicyclist. The statistics pale in comparison to Broadway, which was raised at the meeting, where at just 1 intersection at West 230th and Broadway alone, in the last 5 years, 69 people have been injured, including 15 pedestrians and 6 cyclists, and 1 pedestrian was killed. So nevertheless, even though there are other corridors that need attention, that doesn't mean we should necessarily ignore the conditions on Riverdale Avenue. Finally, and this is my last point, The changes proposed by DOT are not radical or experimental in any way. Vision Zero, which is the program, which is the basis of this design, has essentially become the national standard for traffic safety in our country because it's been applied in so many places over the last decade. And it is a fact that those treatments have reduced traffic deaths and injuries. Our mayor, Eric Adams, ran on a commitment to implementing Vision Zero street improvements to reduce the risk to pedestrians, drivers, and bicyclists, especially at intersections. To this end, the mayor appointed Ydanis Rodriguez as his DOT commissioner, who has been a strong advocate for Vision Zero improvements when he was on the city council. And the new DOT streets plan has improvements like this already in the works throughout the whole city, in addition to the hundreds of Vision Zero projects, large and small, that have already been completed. It is indisputable that the community members who wrote the board office letters and came to the TNT meeting were by far opposed to this project. They're upset by what they see as unnecessarily large changes to a roadway, and they fear that these changes will create chaos. This was the same thing we heard from the general public when similar changes were proposed nearby on Mosholu Avenue, and so far no such chaos has ensued. There is, as here, we're talking about painted lines on the street. If there is double parking, and there will be double parking because there's double parking now, it will be probably in the bike lane or it will be in the median, but at least it won't be in the travel lane. If an emergency vehicle needs to get through, it can do so in the median. When Riverdale Avenue needs to be plowed, it will be plowed regardless of where the lines are. And when deliveries happen, the trucks will park in the bike lane if they're unable to park at the curb like they do now and like they do all over the city. None of that is ideal. And certainly we can work to make that better and will. But there is nothing I have just said that requires supporting this plan or not. These facts are simply what I think was missing from our discussion as a common starting point where we could all agree on to have an informed discussion about a plan that I agree should have been released earlier to the public and to the board. As a committee and a board, we're here to act as intermediaries between city agencies and the public. And I think we failed a bit, we failed the public a bit by not treating DOT like the civil engineers they are, and by not first trying to understand their plan and accept the premise that no death is acceptable if there is anything we can do to prevent it. Vision Zero is not going to solve every problem, but if a road diet causes drivers to slow down a little, pay some extra attention, or ride their bike instead of drive, then it's part of the solution, and I think that's a good thing. For this reason, I voted against this resolution in committee, and I support the proposed street safety plan, even though there has been vocal opposition to it. The majority of my committee felt that the public should have the final word, and in many ways agree with their fears of outcomes because of this plan, and the public has spoken very clearly. So this is the vote for you tonight.
Thank you, Deb. Now for discussion on the resolution, I see Camelia and then Chuck. Camelia?
Yes, thank you very much, Laura. First, I want to congratulate Deb for the excellent, exemplary way that she ran a meeting on a committee meeting on a quite controversial topic. Just want to add, I pleaded the economic development argument in the meeting, but now I want to stress an element that I didn't point out sufficiently before, and it didn't come out sufficiently before. I did send a couple of board members pictures of a similar project in East Bronx on Morris Park Avenue, showing the importance of that median. That was not discussed sufficiently in my view. That creates a tremendous versatility for the road. When the majority of traffic is north-south, that line is being used. When the majority of traffic is south-north, again, that line is being used. Nobody is stopped from double parking. The road is exactly the same size as right now. And there is absolutely no obstruction that isn't there as we speak. I was absolutely troubled, and it's on my heart very heavily. If I would be a board member that was a board member in 2017, 3 people died next year. And there was knowledge that there is a way to improve safety. 3 people died after doing nothing. And the resolution on the table says, let's keep it that way. Since then, so many other similar projects have been implemented. This is absolutely routine. There is no excuse for us to deny science. We went through a pandemic. How is it acceptable for me to say, I accept mask, but I'm against the vaccine, but I can take the booster? No, all these things are composite. They come together. We are on this board to protect our seniors, to help them cross the street, to increase safety for the overall community. This is science. I cannot vote against science. I want to vote for the improvement of this community based on science. And I mean, our electeds didn't like the Morris Park Avenue numbers. They were 42% reduction in total injuries, 37% reduction in motor vehicle injuries. Maybe they like the Baychester Avenue, a 22% reduction, or Burke Avenue, 47% reduction in total injuries. We could have saved people. Let's do our best. Let's be open-minded. Let's be non-doctrinaire, as Assemblymember Dinowitz, whose suggestion I fully support, asked us to be. If I'm begging all of you, if there is a moment of doubt in your mind on science, just abstain on this. Just abstain on this. If this resolution does not pass in the format that it is, I would suggest the community board to give a chance to DOT, providing them with 3 conditions. 1, resurface Riverdale Avenue. 2, install the 2 left signals that our assembly member requested. And 3, report back to us within a year with data showing improvement in the speeding and the casualty numbers that were reported. I truly thank you very much, and I truly hope everybody is taking a moment and listens and digests the numbers that Deb gave us. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chuck, you're on.
Chuck, you're muted.
Chuck,
Chuck, you're muted. Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I have a point of order. And let me tell you what it is. If I had not been present at that meeting, I would have been overwhelmed by the report that was given by the chair. It in no way, I repeat, it in no way reflected either the vote of the committee opposing it, nor did it reflect what happened at the meeting, nor did it reflect the community sentiment. So let me start by giving you the following facts. 1, over 100 people, I think I heard the number 142 people attended this meeting.
Over 200.
Pardon me?
201.
Number 1, I believe 3 people out of that group were in favor. 2, every one of the institutions that were mentioned by the chair in passing, they're all here, opposed it. The church opposed it. Its pastor opposed it. Every one of the institutions that was mentioned that spoke opposed it. They all pointed out that it raised more safety concerns for their parishioners, for their people who lived there, for the elderly who used it, and for the people who traversed the road. Number 3, every one of the people pointed out the pollution that would be generated by the stalled cars would be overwhelming. Number 4, I pointed out that at the request of Assemblyman Dinowitz, I made a point of being able to get additional bus service in that area on one condition. And that was that there be no delays there so the bus drivers could get to their end point in time. This would violate that. You can kiss your bus service goodbye. Number 4, every one of the people who spoke emotionally addressed the fact that this was not going to add anything, but was something put together, not even by the whole committee of merchants, but by a couple of members from the Merchants Association, not even by a vote of the committee, but by a paid lawyer looking for business. Now, I have no fault with lawyers doing that, and he's a damn good lawyer. But that's not the way you get a resolution done. And lastly, every one of the people on that board who came over, as I heard, over 200, pointed out the fact, why are you springing this on us now again? Let me remind you of a historical fact. This is not the first time some one more fact. The DOT people finally agreed that they hadn't contacted or spoken to the people in Yonkers, which is on the other end of this road, prior to the meeting or prior to the resolution. And that's where most of the cars that speed come from. Ask the 5-0. This was badly prepared. The presentation was dead wrong. I'm ashamed of that presentation. I say that with a great deal of reticence. But I will say to you in all honesty, it is the most disingenuous concept I have heard in this board as a member for over 30 years. That's a hell of a statement to make, but it's true. In 1965, the conservative candidate for mayor, William Buckley, the editor of the National Review, came to Riverdale to speak in favor of his candidacy for mayor. And he proposed a very similar approach, except with one major change, that every street in the city of New York, starting with that area of Riverdale Avenue, be one way out of town, and that'll solve all our parking problems and all our traffic problems. That was Buckley's proposal. This proposal, I assure you, is unthought of. It is not one reflective of its sponsoring group. It is not reflective of the committee. It is not reflective of the sentiment of this community, the overwhelming sentiment of this community, and the overwhelming sentiment of the institutions involved. I thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Robert Finuzzi.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I'm going to speak very briefly as a community member. This is my neighborhood. I live here. And I guess, Chuck, I'm number 4, that I actually like the idea in concept. I'd like to see this happen in my neighborhood. I struggle every day with safety, turning, and general traffic issues on that road. Again, I'm speaking as a community member. I'm a citizen of North Riverdale. Unfortunately, I did find the presentation lacking in several respects. And it's enough to make me say I will have to abstain on a proposal I would otherwise support, because my questions weren't answered. And it had to do with the absence of turn signals in this. And I don't believe we really can make effective use of the center turn lane without turn signals. It really doesn't help anything or change anything. There wasn't adequate research about the impact of school drop-off and school lanes, and I had to remind them of the existence of the school. And I was concerned about the impact on merchant double parking or truck drop-offs. So because those questions weren't answered, and Deb, I just wanted to ask you, had you received any modification or response to questions like this that were submitted to the T&T committee at that presentation? Has there been any further answers to those objections, questions, concerns?
No, there hasn't been any response to.
Okay, then I'm just explaining my abstain vote. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield the floor.
Thank you. I think I recall one thing Keith said was that if you're concerned about all the deliveries, etc., we could do a loading zone, but a loading zone takes away parking. So that would be, that would be out of the question. But that was the only thing I heard from him that he could, modify. Maybe other people heard something else. But anyway, moving on, we have Lisa.
Thank you. Just really quickly, a lot was said at the meeting, and a lot of people who actually live here. and live through the traffic and really know the area. And I'm really sorry that DOT wouldn't have a discussion with the community first to really understand the issues. One thing I just do want to speak up about is there was just a comment that the community is not concerned about all the deaths and the traffic and the accidents that happen. We have been asking for years for the turn lane to put the stripes clearly so cars could see people in the crosswalk, for the the lights that give pedestrians more time to cross. We're sort of really the last community that got it. This area is not a priority for the city in terms of accidents. I don't know how this was pushed through or why. We're all for safety, but we are not for this road diet. I do not believe for a minute that the Department of Transportation will say, well, if we get the turn lane, then maybe we could consider the light. Years ago, I remember distinctly a meeting when this was on the being discussed, that the reason for not putting a turn signal at 256th Street was the timing. It would delay cars because of the delayed green on 254th Street. They didn't give any specific explanation for the turn down on 256th Street. That's what was at least stated at the time at a previous meeting. Anyway, I asked my fellow board members who did not hear the TNT, we're not there at the TNT meeting, listen to the people who spoke at the gallery section. I mean, that really represents the issues that we're facing with. This is not a complete plan, and shame on DOT for not coming to us before and giving us time to really look at the plan and give our voice to it so we could be partners in the plan. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Bender.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to refrain from invoking the apocalypse in my remarks, but I do want to make a couple of observations. One is that the Merchants Association, as it was called at the time, or any civic group, can make a request to a city agency to do a study. It's not the fact that the request was made, it's the study that's the issue here. These changes don't come about because some group advocates for them. They come about because, in this case, DOT does a traffic study and discovers that, yes, indeed, there is a safety problem. And having determined that there is a safety problem, DOT is compelled to act at this point. All right. It's not a question of, do we go ahead or do we not go ahead? If they don't go ahead and having determined that there's a safety issue and a pedestrian is struck and badly injured on Riverdale Avenue, that's a lawsuit that my cousin Vinny could win. Okay, you've created a situation there of negligence where you've got a problem and you don't do anything about it. So DOT is going to do something. I think the smart thing for us to do is to engage with DOT. There are aspects of this plan that I feel are unclear or that I want more information about. And I really would like to, now that we've got DOT here, and we've all come to agreement on the fact that DOT should have shown up a lot earlier. They should have communicated with the community board. There's no excuse for their behavior. But now that we've got them and we're engaged in a dialogue with them, I really wish we could have an honest dialogue with them that goes two ways. That's the bulk of what I have to say. The issues about double parking and all, my God, this comes up every single time. Marshallou Avenue, if we put in bike lanes, the merchants will go out of business because they won't be able to get deliveries. Nobody will be able to go in. It was nonsense a year ago and it's been disproven. We've seen that none of that came to pass. So, if there's going to be double parking, there's going to be double parking regardless of the configuration of the street. That's, this plan from DOT is not going to end double parking and it's not going to bring Riverdale Avenue to a dead impasse either. As I say, I've got some reservations about the plan, but Safety is the #1 issue, and there is a serious safety problem on Riverdale Avenue, and it has to be addressed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bob. Dan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few quick points. One, yes, there are the heavy intersections, the bad intersections on Riverdale are 256, 254, and 259. We've known that for years. We've had, I don't know how many meetings about those intersections. I remember being at a press conference years back for one of the elected officials. And in the middle of the press conference at 256, there was a traffic accident of somebody making a left turn from Riverdale up to 256. We've known the issues are there. DOT has known the issues are there. The question is, what is the best approach to actually address the issues in the intersections where there are problems? I don't think this is the best course of action for it. I think this is something that DOT uses, across the city in different areas. It's a cookie cutter approach. I don't really think that this is science. I think it's an approach that they use that basically hits a few boxes for DOT, with some things that maybe people care about, maybe they don't, but it's general. It's not really specific to here. I think if they were looking specific to these intersections, there would be a much greater conversation and concentration on left turn signals at those 3 intersections. Well, 254 has one already, but at the other 2. So I think it's the approach, and Bob, I agree, something should be done. Question is how it should be done too. I think just in general, they presented March 31st, we're at April 12th talking about a resolution. Quite frankly, I've seen what was posted by DOT. I still couldn't tell you frame by frame what they're putting on every single street. I mean, we've got pictures from other areas, which obviously have gotten us into trouble in the past. And I would have liked to have seen a lot more from DOT. And it's a problem that we face. We faced it for a while. And I would have liked to have seen, more than one meeting on it. I would have liked to have 30 days to take their plan, pose a lot of questions, and actually have a conversation. But we're not there for whatever reasons. We're not there. 12 days later, after getting the plan, we're here in front of the board. We know from, at least if you heard, DOT was planning on moving forward with this over the summer, I believe. I think the timeline they gave us was June, July, where they were looking to move ahead here. That's going to be pretty quick. It seemed like, it was a done deal. And I think as a board, if we are going to have a conversation with DOT, we need to engage now. We need to bring attention to the issue when we need to present alternatives as well to what this plan is. Regarding Vision Zero, it's interesting when you look at the statistics, especially pre-COVID statistics of Vision Zero. And when de Blasio left office, it was published and folks were looking at the 2013 to 2021 numbers. And I think that's something that should be a discussion, because I think many people would be surprised that there was a shift. And while pedestrian, accidents did go down, what you did see is a shift in other accidents. And the numbers, I wouldn't say that they're conclusive in all respects of Vision Zero. And it's an interesting study which is going to continue. For this resolution, I'm not, in support of what DOT did. I've got a number of reasons why that's so. And I leave there with those points and those thoughts for other board members. Thank you.
Thank you. David Gilman.
Yes, very briefly. The records show that there has been about 1 accident every single month. That's pretty high. And DOT statistics show that the traffic volumes are about half of what, at max, of what they would normally have a 4-lane drivable road. And I did see the pictures that Camelia took of Morris Park Avenue, which is a similar, much busier commercial strip, and it was fine. And I coincidentally drove by it today, and it was just fine. I think that come the fall, we should look at dealing with PS 81 and their use of the Riverdale Avenue doors. And I think they did that because of COVID, but as things hopefully turn back to normal this summer and fall, I think we should talk with the principal about returning only entry and exit from 256th Street and get all these cars to not double park on Riverdale Avenue. And finally, I would agree with all. I think that we should strongly encourage DOT to come to us earlier and engage us in this process. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. That's the last hand. Seeing no further discussion. Are we ready to move the question? It's getting late. If you vote yes, then you are rejecting the plan. I just want to remind you, this is one of these be it resolves where Community Board 8 rejects DOT's proposal as presented. So is there, I'm ready to take the vote. Raise your hand if you are opposed to this resolution. Opposed. Okay, we have Bob Bender.
Okay, I'm
Dave-
gonna just read, Laura, I can read
Okay.
out the names.
That's good.
Bob Bender, Deb Travis, David Gelman, Margaret Della, Steve Fruit, Camelia Tepulis.
Okay, you have that. Please put your hands down.
I made a mistake. I'm sorry, Secretary. I did not, I got confused.
Okay.
Okay,
I support.
so we'll
the
take
resolution.
Steve off that.
Okay, everybody's hand is down. Please raise your hand if you're
Laura, can you
abstaining.
repeat those names again, just for the record?
No, I just read them. We'll have to listen to the tape again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Camelia, your hand is up.
No, I was just voting again for Pablo, but no.
Oh,
You
okay,
got me,
all right.
yeah.
Okay, so all hands are down, please. And please raise your hand if you're abstaining. Is there
So
any?
abstaining, I will read Constance Barnes, Bob Fanuzzi, Sebastian Fittipaldi.
Okay, and so this resolution passes. Okay, and now thank you, everybody, for your participation.
Right, so
we
next
have-
up, we have another resolution.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So
Okay,
the next resolution is a request by the Riverdale Farmers Market for a full street closure of Johnson Avenue.
Madam Chair, just to interrupt just a second. I'm sorry, Deb. I presented a resolution. It is entirely up to you whether it comes up now or later in the meeting.
no, I want to
but
put,
because
these are on the
it-
agenda,
Let
Rosemary?
me just finish, because it's tangential. I leave it entirely up to you when it comes up. I just wanted to raise it now. I don't want to raise the resolution now. I just want to, it will come up later in the meeting.
It's gonna
Yes?
come up right after this.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't forget about it. Got about this one, but not about that one.
All right, I won't take that personally.
You know?
All right, so
Okay.
whereas the Riverdale YMHA presented their plan for a one-time Sunday pop-up market on Johnson Avenue on May 22nd in support of a full street closure permit. Therefore, be it resolved that the Community Board 8 supports the permit for the full street closure on May 22nd on Johnson Avenue between West 235th Street and West 236th Street. And this was a unanimously approved.
Okay, we'll just have discussion. I just recommend to Deb that you add Sunday pop-up farmers market. People know what a farmers market is.
And that was
And that-
added to, well, it says plan for a one-time Sunday pop-up
Market,
farmers market.
but I think farmers market.
Okay,
On Johnson on May 22nd in support of a full street closure permit between the hours of 7 a.m. and
Yep.
3 p.m. If that's a friendly amendment.
yep, I'll take it.
Okay, which includes the setup and
Uh,
breakdown,
Okay,
so that people know when it's closed.
yep.
Okay, those are just my little points.
Just a
Any
point of
other
information, what were the
discussion?
hours? Just, I
7
didn't hear what you said. Yeah.
7 a.m. and
Yeah,
3 p.m.
7 a.m. setup, 9 a.m. start, 2 p.m. end, 3 p.m. breakdown.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything, any other?
Any other
amendments, Other comments?
I have to
I-
say, for some reason, something happened to my computer and I'm not able to see hands.
Rosemary and
So-
Dan and Chuck.
Okay,
No.
I have an ad up and I can't seem to get rid of it, so I'm gonna depend on other people. Oh, it just disappeared. I must
Oh,
have done something.
Rosemary's
Okay,
hand is
Rosemary,
up.
go ahead.
Now it's Dan.
I see Dan and Chuck.
Yeah, just a question, and obviously Johnson Avenue, we've got some. There should still be restaurant sheds, the sidewalk sheds. Normally they have like the 15-foot fire lane or just emergency lane. Is that going to be east west?
So the fire lane is going to run up the center of Johnson Avenue, and then there'll be little tents that the farm will be over the farmers, and that she presented a map of where they would be located between the on-street dining.
Gotcha. That was the question for it. That was it.
Chuck?
Madam Chair, I don't know if this is the right point, but I have a question or comment concerning TNT. If I may, you will recall that at your instance and the instance of Council Member Dinowitz, we had a meeting on Johnson Avenue with Adonis Rodriguez, the Commissioner of DOT, and members of his senior staff a few weeks ago concerning the subject of the roadway cafes and the sidewalk cafes. Now, I do know Adonis Rodriguez for a number of years. And so he and I went off to the side and had a conversation further on the issue. And he is, I believe, open to a discussion concerning two issues, which I think can either be handled by TNT or land use or the combination of the two, because it does involve tangentially the zoning questions. As we were talking, I think Nick Fazio was, I know he was, Nick was there at the same time, and there may have been others. As we were talking, a large truck triple parked alongside of one of the roadway restaurants, and nobody could get through, including a police car. Rodriguez saw that and made the point that we have been making, that something's got to be done in areas like that, where the 5-0 has, for whatever reason, not done its job in terms of traffic enforcement. And the issue really gets to a substantive two-part question. One, and Rodriguez is prepared to have a serious conversation with it, although he is favorable to trying to do what he can to help out restaurants, and I have no problem with that concept. So let me tell you the two parts. One, if we put them and limit them to the sidewalk in appropriate areas, how does that impact either better, worse, or differently from what is going on now? We showed him, Eric brought along a ruler and showed him that the actual eating area was less than the meters of feet taken up by the trees planted on the sidewalk. And so if it were moved in, you could have as much space for pedestrians as you have now and clear the street for parking and other uses being offloading and the like. The second issue also was, if we are going to have them in the street, what are the circumstances under which that is appropriate? For example, while we were there, there was not a single person. This was 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. There was not a single person in any of the outdoor restaurants, other than a couple of people sitting having a cup of coffee at Starbucks. That was it. And yet we had triple parking up and down the road. Now in the morning, it was horrific. And he understands it. His daughters live here. He's here all the time. So the second question that has to be addressed is, if we have it, Do we require that they be of a kind that can be taken down, dismantled in the winter months when the usage is not high, or dismantled at any other time? Those are two issues that need to get addressed very quickly, because we have a commissioner of DOT who knows this neighborhood, represented a part of this community board district, and understands what's going on. So I would strongly urge, Madam Chair, that you make a decision how you want to deal with this. But this is something that has got to be dealt with quickly in terms of the roadway restaurant and the sidewalk restaurant. We have dealt with it in part, but we've never dealt with it as a thorough item.
Well, certainly we can return to that. But now we're speaking to this particular resolution upon us, which is a one-day pop-up, one day. Now, this road has, this,
Forgive me, I have no problem with that. I thought you'd already finished with
no,
that.
no, no, we're we're having discussion strictly on this resolution. And this has been closed many times by KRVC, you know, seasonally. So I think that if there are no further hands, we can move along with the motion. Yes, Deb?
Chuck, mute yourself.
Oh, that's all right.
I think that's
yes.
Karen.
That's,
Karen
yeah, that's
Pesh.
not me. That's,
Let me just like.
that's Karen
Karen.
Pesh.
Karen, you have to mute yourself. Karen.
Yep,
Okay, it's
she's
quiet
muted.
now. Okay, on this Sunday market, one day, one time, is there anyone opposed to this resolution? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone abstaining on the resolution? Okay, so it passes unanimously. Thank you.
And then I refer you to my minutes for any additional updates on the rest of the meeting. The next TNT meeting will be Wednesday, April 20th, where we'll be finishing up budget priorities and discussing next steps on Bailey Avenue.
Thank you, Deb. Now, Rosemary presented us with a resolution. It was sent out earlier. It's up here, and first we have to vote to put it on the we have to vote to put it on the agenda. Is there a second?
So move.
Okay. Is there anyone opposed to putting this item on the agenda? Raise your hand. Again, I lost participants. I got this stupid ad, Adobe. So I can't see. Is there any hands up, Kira? Anyone opposed?
No, no hands up.
Okay, anyone abstaining?
No.
Okay, so now Rosemary, we put it on the agenda and please present.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for being so generous to allow this to be put on the agenda. Thank you very much. I just want to say right up front that while this is tangential to the Riverdale plan, it is neutral as it is neutral as to being in favor or opposed to the plan. Okay, I want that to be understood. It is neutral to that. I'm going to what I believe is a very important issue for our board and for government. It occurred to me during this issue that the community board's primary responsibility is to inform the public and listen to the public, and not to forward your own personal agenda. We are here to inform the public and listen to the public. And how do we do that without information from government? How do we do it? That's what led me to this, to do this resolution, and I feel it deeply. And just everybody has it in front. I did it as simply as I could. That DOT is the city agency. They're required to work with us. Community board is a city agency. We're a sister agency with them. They had a proposal for a plan. Okay, Riverdale Avenue. Community board requested a copy of that plan, not for frivolous purposes, but for publication on the board's website and the other ways that the community board office disseminates this information to the general public, right? DOT refused to send their plan to Community Board 8, which is a sister agency.
Or the elected officials.
Okay, but you see, I didn't put that in there. Okay, you're absolutely right. And if somebody wants to amend it to put that in, I was trying to be as generic and simple as possible, but you're absolutely right, Madam Chair, you are. It comes the TNT committee for the first time, people see it. 200 people are on that Zoom. It's the first time they saw it, flashing seconds for every plate. Okay, I will tell you that the presentation it was complicated. It's a complicated proposal. There's a lot of information in it, and there was insufficient time for anybody to fully understand or prepare themselves or allow people to really pose questions. Okay, that here is my resolve. And this is Community Board 8 should request DOT to state in writing their agency policy toward responding to requests from community boards for advance notice of proposals, plans, blah, 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 affecting the community and appearing on CBA agendas and CBA committee agendas for discussion and consideration for vote. That is the bare minimum we should be asking of DOT. I want, well, not me, I should say, I'm asking the community board to vote, to request DOT to put in writing what their agency proposal is for giving information to the community. One last sentence, and I will leave it. To not ask for this, to not ask for their policy in writing, I really do believe abdicates our responsibility to inform and listen to the community. So thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing this to come on the board. Thank you, board members, for the additional time to present. Thank you.
Okay, I see 3 hands. Camelia, then Marty, then Lisa. I just want to remind everyone it's 10 o'clock. So.
Yes, I will. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Rosemary, I just want to thank you. I think that making this ask is absolutely reasonable and it's extremely constructive towards the future. I have just a couple of small suggestions, if you wouldn't mind. They're absolutely friendly. I would suggest to make it more punchy, to actually put the details of the dates. When you say, whereas CB8 requested a copy of the plan on such date, whereas DOT refused to send their plan on such date, whereas at the CBA TNT meeting on such date. You see what I'm saying? Just to put the dates for people to see kind of the sequence of the process that took place. And just to add, I fully endorse your comments as to the sort of DOT knew that they were coming to a hostile audience with a background and a history. I saw some of their presentations in other areas where they literally had one slide per each intersection, and that indeed explains to people much clearer sort of the intent. They didn't have that. That to me suggests a little bit of, I don't know how to call it, an attitude. I think that was absolutely counterproductive, and I think your request is absolutely appropriate for them to put us in writing the policy. Once again, congratulations for bringing this up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Marty.
Yeah, I don't know how to suggest a friendly amendment, but I do want the board to be aware that last April, I mean, I do not think fondly of DOT as was expressed earlier. But last April, I wrote to the Department of Transportation because I read an article in a magazine called City and State in which Community Board 8 Manhattan was dumbfounded by the fact that the DOT said they'd be in contact with them concerning possible bike bike paths. And the next thing you know, there were barriers being set up to create those barriers, those lanes, never discussing with the community board how it would affect the board. And so they were beside themselves. The article further states that it was the intention of DOT to find ways to circumvent the city charter, which requires them to come to community boards. So I fully support what Rosemary has put forward, and I'd like to have it amended. I have no language. Have it amended so that, oh, by the way, I was promised, I have not received an answer to my letter. And I was promised by the Bronx Assistant Deputy Commissioner at a land use committee, oh, we're sorry, we're going to get back to you. Well, he's gone, and I have no hope of ever getting an answer. But Rosemary is right on target.
Okay, Lisa?
Right, thank you. I too support this 100%. I mean, and I like the simplicity of the ask. You know, we try to document things. We, as a community board, unpaid community board, we try to communicate to the people who live here and who work here, and for the Department of Transportation or any agency not to be forthright, not to say, this is how we do things, this is how we'll respond to you, is just appalling to me. And I mean, there's no way that you could partner with, with a mystery, with something so non-transparent about what their process is. And I'd like to know their process, and thank you, Rosemary.
Okay, Deb.
So I just wanted to just say that I have an issue with this because I just don't understand the process here. Like, that this was never brought towards the actual TNT committee for a discussion, and to just bring it to the floor of the board as an independent resolution. It's like, I don't know why we have committees. Why don't we all just independently kind of freelance and present resolutions ad hoc about various topics for committees that we are not on. So I don't understand. Rosemary, please don't, I'm speaking. So
I'm sorry, what am I doing? I'm sorry. Oh, I'll mute myself.
So thank you. So that's my concern, that my experience so far is that DOT, yes, they should have brought the proposal for Riverdale Avenue sooner to this community board. I think there's also, to Camelia's point, there's bad blood and not good experiences in the past, and that makes them more likely to not engage with us in ways that I see them engage with CB7 at least, and doing public outreach and actually like getting feedback from the community on individual intersections for their Mosholu Avenue project that they just announced. There's a much more public outreach, and we should be getting that, and we should be getting that for Riverdale Avenue, and we should have gotten that. But I just think that this is not going to get us closer to that goal by asking them for their process without actually just going through the process ourselves of having Laura ask them for any documentation or specifics about their communication strategy, or having the district manager request it. There's ways to do it that are not so inflammatory, like a resolution. So that's my.
No, what's odd, I'm sorry, what's odd was that they hadn't reached out to 81 yet. They hadn't reached out to the businesses yet, because I had asked that. And so they had done 0 on their own, which is.
Right. They could have done much better with that.
Yeah, they hadn't. And the day that they told us in February that they wanted to come to the March DOT meeting, a TNT meeting, I had to schlep it out of them what they were doing for the agenda. And I sent a letter the next day saying, I want the plan. So I don't know what date that was, but it was the day after. And the day after the hearing, I have requested the studies. And after a big back and forth, Keith wrote me that we will get the studies. We will get all the studies. I have to hold him to that now, and I will. So, I mean, on our part, we have been asking in writing, and I wrote Idanis Rodriguez, the commissioner, our unhappiness with not getting it. So did the elected officials. They're just like, governance unto their own. I know that boards are advisory. I mean, and they do this to many boards throughout the city. But hope springs eternal that maybe, we could keep their feet to the fire. Anyway, I'm sorry for going on about that. Rosemary?
I do just need to, thank you very much for allowing me to respond. It is, Deb, I will tell you, it never dawned on me to bring this resolution to TNT because it has nothing to do with TNT. Has nothing to do with TNT. This is a fundamental issue of how the community board operates, fundamental to what we do, fundamental to our responsibility. So it has nothing to do with TNT. Please look at the resolution. It has nothing to do with TNT. I understand the precipitating event was that, but the primary issue is what our responsibility is to inform and educate the community. And this agency, in my view, was standing in the way. By the way, you look at the resolution, I didn't attack them at all. I am asking the board to ask them to tell us what is their, please put in writing what your policy is vis-a-vis giving information to us. I was as delicate in that resolution as anybody has ever been. It is my sincere hope that the board votes for this, okay? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you again.
Okay, Chuck, you've already spoken. Is this hand up from before?
No, this is on this resolution. I take my life in my hands by sounding like I disagree with Rosemary, which is a very bad thing to do because she's usually right and I'm usually wrong. But I want to make a point here. One of the items in the conversation that I had with Adonis Rodriguez was his ask was, could we be more supportive of him and his administration? And what they did in the prior administration was wrong, and he's trying to fix that. With that in mind, and I did give him a commitment that I would try and see if he was reciprocating, I would try and do the same. So I've made full disclosure. If we can state this in terms of we're trying to understand what the process at DOT is, using those words maybe, we're trying to understand the process of DOT, it will be helpful. I believe that we have at least a 51-49 chance of being able to get Adonis Rodriguez to work with us. I believe we have an even better than 51-49 chance to get his senior staff. Laura made a very good and deep impression and favorable impression upon them at that session. So just bear that in mind. It's really not in disagreement with Rosemary's resolution, which I will vote for, but it is how we phrase it, because I think we do have a chance.
Did you have any particular language? Or
I
anything
think
like
I
that?
think I just said something. We're trying to understand the process. Could you please let us know what is your process, blah, blah, blah. I think that's pretty close to what Rosemary had in mind.
Okay, Rosemary,
No,
any other
no,
comments
no,
as far as what Chuck is saying?
I'm on my phone. I'm so fatigued here. I want to tell you, I thought so much about this resolution. I am wedded to it. I don't care if the board votes for it or doesn't vote for it. I want it to stand the way it is. That's it. Okay. I don't care.
Okay,
Okay.
I think
Vote for it,
we'll-
don't vote for it. I stand behind this. I stand behind what I said.
I am going to call for the vote. And because I want everyone to understand, the nominating committee is going to be meeting after we adjourn, and it's really, we have to move on. So we're gonna vote, all hands up, anyone who opposes this resolution. If you oppose it, please raise your hand. Okay, Moses.
Deb, Moses, and Julie.
Okay, Is anyone abstaining on this resolution? Abstaining? Okay,
Abstaining, I see Chuck Merdler, Bob Bender, Sebastian, Constance Barnes, and Ram Dot.
okay. All
And Bob
others,
Bender.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so it passes. Thank you all. We're going to move on to Youth Committee. I know Julia Gomez is absent. Anybody reporting on youth?
Yeah, Madam Chair, me, Stephen.
Okay, Stephen.
So just a quick recap on the previous meeting we had on March 21st. It was the Community Resource and Networking Summit, where numerous community center and youth organizations presented on after-school programs and summer youth programs. Our next meeting will be April 18th, this coming Monday at 7:30 p.m., where we'll look to finalize our budget priorities. That's it.
Thank you. And it was an excellent forum.
Yep, definitely was.
I want to congratulate you. Next is Aging. Dan?
No report this month. We did not have a meeting yesterday.
Okay. Budget, David Gilman.
Yes, given that we are well over 3 hours into this meeting, I will be brief as usual, not going over even 90 seconds. Though I must say, Marty, I'm surprised you didn't mention the dynamite non-issue at Stag Riverdale Avenue. But that aside, okay, we're getting into the short strokes of the budget cycle. The budgets are due by next Friday. More than half of the committees will have had their April meetings. And so chairs, please get your materials in by next Friday. The few of you that are after next Friday, just send me an email and we'll figure it out. At the beginning of last month, I sent each of the chairs a template for how to write out these budget requests with identifying your committee, the agency you wanted this addressed to, a short title and a brief description, and then identifying on the right side what the priority number was for last year, if any, and then what your priority is for this year on the left. Please get this in by next Friday, the 22nd, so we can get this process going for the whole community board. Thank you.
Thank you. Economic Development, Nick.
Well, Marty's hand is up.
Okay.
Marty, do you have a question for me?
Come on. I just want to make sure nobody misunderstood what you said.
No, it was a joke. Don't worry about it, Marty.
There won't
Let's not
be any
waste.
blasting.
It's 10:10. Let's not waste any time on it. It was just a joke.
Well, I want to make sure everybody knows to laugh. Okay.
Okay, Nick, Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. Last meeting was March 24th. Please refer to our minutes. KRVC has a small business printing and promotion grant project for our small businesses, and the deadline is June 30th. We emailed the flyer out, but if anyone wants the particulars, please reach out to us or to Tracy at KRVC. And lastly, the nominating period for the Betty Campbell Adams Award for the most valuable merchant is now open. So please send your nominations into Tanya at the board office by May 15th at the very latest. And we do have a nomination form that you can get on the website or from the board office, but we accept nominations without the form, and as we have done in the past. The next meeting is on April 28th, so please join us. Hope to see you all then.
Thank you, Nick. Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs. Sylvia.
I refer you to my minutes, and our next meeting is on, I'm going to be very brief, on April 26th, and we will be finalizing our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Omar, Health, Hospitals, and Social Services.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So at our last meeting, we had a discussion about our budget priorities, and I'll be working with the office to do a next meeting for this month. as time run up a little bit, so I wasn't able to schedule one for this month, but I will work with them to get our budget finalized. As most of you may know that the COVID rate is spiking, which is widely expected for the spring and summer break. The federal government, President Biden has been reporting that the federal government is out of money to fight COVID. So a bipartisan group of senators have been working to come up with a budget so that we can get additional funds from the federal government to fight COVID. Hopefully that comes true. But I will let you know when the next meeting is, and we will be discussing the COVID rate also within CBA. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway. Any report for the special committee? Margaret? Maybe she's muted. Margaret?
Oh, I thought you said the Greenway. I apologize.
Oh, no. You know what? I did. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Just kidding.
Oh, my God. Bob Bender. The Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway.
Yeah, I wasn't sure myself which one it was, but
I apologize.
I have nothing to report except the fact that we are going to meet on Tuesday, May 3rd, which as of the moment, I believe will be on Zoom. I certainly hope so, but more details to come on that. Tuesday, May 3rd.
Thank you, Bob. Margaret Della, Special Committee on Racial Equity.
Hi, good evening. With SCREE, we had a couple of different activities that we took on. One was to do some initial mapping of resources or of asks for resources in the district, and how those asks moved across the district, how to identify where those asks were year after year, what had been completed, and it led us to a number of conversations around how do we know when capital asks are made, how do we know how they've been responded to, how do we know when they've been completed. So at first blush, I think we took a look and determined that it was great to see many of the capital asks in areas, economic justice areas of the district, if you will. And then it also leads to curiosity around, okay, if we have multiple years of these capital asks in the district for housing or for boilers or for parks, perhaps in the Kingsbridge area, how and why are projects still not being completed, or how are they truly getting done? So I think that leads us to more questions, and we're going to be doing mapping on additional fiscal years around capital asks. And, you know, certainly it sort of begs the question of, for all of our budget items, we do have a number of grouping areas, and I will complete this and send it along to the budget committee. But definitely it's very interesting to see capital asks that we have from our community board, and what's being done, and how perhaps we could use additional leverage points to get some of those projects completed. We also are looking at resources in the district, how resources are being spent, how they're being allocated, not only in our district, how are we compared to other districts, how are we compared across the Bronx, how does the Bronx compare to New York City? And so we're going to come back to the community with a bit more research, some comparative data, so that we can understand how not only are we talking about racial equity, but where are our moves, where are our asks, where are we putting resources and attention. One thing I did want to mention, since it was brought up earlier in the meeting, which I thought was fantastic, the chair of the land use committee referenced affordable housing. We'd love to work with land use and the housing committees on affordable housing in any way, shape, or form. One of the areas that we want to emphasize is that SCREE, we don't want to have siloed conversations when it comes to housing or affordable housing. anything like that where we can be working with standing committees so that we can be bringing together different experts with different layers of life experiences. We'd love to be able to do that. We don't want to sort of have separate conversations. So we welcome being a part of any of those committee conversations, and certainly with any other committee for issues, that we're all looking at as neighbors and community members. So thank you so much. Minutes forthcoming.
Thank you. Special Committee on Veteran Services.
Laura,
anybody speaking?
Laura.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chuck.
Forgive me. One word response to Margaret, absolutely. Will do.
Okay, I'm
Wait,
good.
Wait. There is a resource you need to look at. If you haven't gotten it, Kira should send it, otherwise let me know. The City Planning Commission has issued this data bank. It has clearly been sanitized so that there's important data missing. But what remains is instructive in terms of what you need to ask for. So Kira, if you could send that to him, to Margaret or Laura, you sent it to me, I think.
We sent it to Margaret.
I think
Oh, you
Margaret has it, but I can resend.
All right.
Yeah, we sent, that was today.
We have it.
It's
Yeah,
clear.
we have it.
It's clearly been sanitized. Understand that. There's much more data. That's not a guess.
But it's what they've presented us with. And I could send it to all the board members. Today, we looked at it, and we right away thought Scree and land use, we sent it to a few, but we'll expand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
that
think
was
that's a
today.
great idea.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Margaret. Special Committee on Veteran Services. Anyone to speak on that? I don't think so, because Sergio's absent. Okay, so we'll move on to discussion of Executive Committee meeting minutes of April 6th. Are there any comments? That's in hands of approval of the board meeting minutes of March 8th. Anyone opposed to approving the minutes? Anyone abstaining? Okay, so they're approved unanimously. I want to say that we're going to have the nominating committee stay in the huddle here. And that's Omar and Steve Vasquez and Dan Paternak and Steve Fruit and Margaret. Hopefully just a few minutes. I hope you get some dates so that we can clarify for the public what the dates will be. And the board is welcome to stay on. It's open meetings. The community is welcome to stay on. But I still want to end with technically, I want to wish everyone a blessed Easter and Passover. And technically, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Okay, so unless you're staying on for the nominating committee, and leave the recording on, right, Kira? That stays on.
Yeah, I was gonna stop this recording and restart a new one, but I don't know if that'll work. So I'm just gonna continue this one
Yeah, I think that'll
to be safe.
That's safe. Okay,
Okay.
so everyone,
Do realize that, that I think the 13th and 20th conflict with the committee meetings.
yes, that's why I made it 6 o'clock. But David, these are just phantom dates.
Okay,
They're
fine.
gonna
Never
pick,
mind,
they're
never
gonna
mind.
pick dates, and we're gonna cancel those dates.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe not. I mean, it's up to them now. Okay, everybody. For those of you who are leaving, good night and have a good evening.
Members of the nominating committee, I'm gonna make a few of you co-hosts of the meeting, just so you're aware.
I guess we'll just give it a minute or two, see who hangs around.
You're on. Hero.
Pablo?
Oh, hey, Dan.
Yes,
Hey,
Pablo?
Pablo?
So if you do press stop, not pause, stop, it will cancel the previous one and you can start a new one. Just wanted to share that.
No, I'm just gonna keep this one going.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I think we're
discuss.
good.
You're
Yeah.
good. You're on.
So Stephen, I don't know if maybe we just kind of introduce ourselves. I know we haven't had the pleasure, I'm guessing, I'm not on a committee with you, Stephen. My name's Dan Paternak. I'm one of the members as well. I've been on the board a number of years. I don't know if some of the other members who have also been on, want to just say hello.
Oh,
Okay.
Margaret,
Go ahead.
oh, she just unmuted. Okay.
Great.
Hi, I'm Margaret Della. I'm not sure what else you wanted me to say, but
Anything you want.
hi, nice to see you. This is my first time on the nominating committee, so I'm a novice, but looking forward to being a part of it. So thank you.
My name is Steve Fruit. I was muted before. I want to welcome to Stephen. I haven't met you either. I've served the last 2 years on the nominating committee. I was the chair the first year, and I was a member last year, and I'm here again.
Excellent. Nice to meet you guys. I'm sorry, I'm driving right now, so it's a little difficult to unmute and mute. But yeah, honestly, it's I'm excited. I'm obviously a novice as well. It's only about 3-4 months or so. Actually, no, a little longer, probably 7 months or so on the board. It's definitely been quite the experience, and I'm looking forward to continue learning, continue engage with the community and you guys.
That's great. Omar, did you want to say anything?
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Omar. This is my third time serving on the nominating committee. I'm also the chair for the L committee. So looking forward. Yeah, thank you. And Stephen, I haven't got a chance to speak. Welcome. Welcome, Margaret.
Okay. So, a couple of years ago, we did spend a lot of time, after LRE and after this committee creating like a lot of guidelines and rules, which I think will help us and will kind of streamline the process as we move forward. There's a lot of thinking that we won't have to do. I think one order of business we should do tonight is probably, if we can, between our 5 members, elect a chair of the committee. And have a conversation about that, and then kind of move forward with dates and, having a discussion of how we move forward. I'm not sure how you guys feel about that.
While the meeting was coming to a close, the board meeting, some people may have seen, I sent around an excerpt from the bylaws of the community board and the ethical guidance manual. There are other sources, but those are the principal sources for how we do our business on this committee, so I hope those are helpful. And Dan's right, we should at least, if possible, elect a chair and choose a next meeting date, and talk a little bit about the notice that needs to go out. The board office is going to do that anyway, but there's a notice that needs to go out to all current officers and chairs, asking them to notify the committee if they intend to seek election to their position again.
So I would be interested in serving as nominating committee chair. I'm not sure if anybody else has interest in serving as chair of this committee. I have been on this committee once before, 2 years ago, as a member. So I'm not sure if anybody else is interested in doing it. So, Omar, Stephen, Margaret?
Nope, I am fine.
Yep, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I'm not doing it either. Nope.
Okay.
I nominate,
It's usually a not it type thing.
I mean, Steve, if you wanna do it now, I don't
No,
know.
no, I'm good. You probably, if you're not looking at the video, I shook my head. No, but thank you. I nominate Dan Paternak to be committee chair. And
Great.
Okay,
So
well, then, sounds like,
I think our job is going to be pretty easy this year. There's not too much to have to do other than what's set out for us in the ethical guidance manual. Steve, I did see the email come in and I think that's excellent, for some of the newer members to this committee. If you could take a look at the email that Steve sent out, it really gives a great background on what we do here in the nominating committee and kind of the framework for us. Our board chair did send out, if you saw, 4 different dates, including this one. So, the notice requirement is kind of settled, so we can kind of start. In terms of dates that we should be mindful of, Steve mentioned before, the board office is going to send out an email tomorrow morning. That email is going to basically ask everybody who has a current officer or chair position to let the nominating committee know within 5 days if they're going to reapply for that position or not. And if they don't reply, then we're going to essentially take it that they are not reapplying for that position. And that date is going to be Tuesday, October 19th, that all current chairs and officers will let us know whether or not they're running for that position.
Dan, I think you said October.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. I don't know how October came, but April 19th, next Tuesday, April 19th.
I don't think it, I don't remember now, but I don't think it needs to be any particular date. The committee can decide. That's 6
Oh,
days,
okay.
which is not a lot. I think it just, I don't remember how long.
I thought it was, yeah, I could be wrong. I'll read your rules. I thought it was like 5 business days they would let us know. Did we take
No,
that out?
within 5 days of forming the nominating committee, the notice has to go out within.
It's the notice in 5 days.
The notice within 5 days, I believe. So asking the executive committee, are you staying or not staying, applying.
I'm just gonna read your rules real quick and yeah, we'll go from there. But whatever the notice requirement is, I thought it was, they have to let us know within 5 days of the formation of the nominated committee, whether or not they're staying on or not. I could be wrong.
No.
And I'll certainly open up, the rules and, we go from there. So I don't know how the members feel. But, I don't know if you think we need a meeting tomorrow night or we just plan for the next meeting on the 20th.
Just one quick note about that. I know that when this all started and we wanted to have hold dates in the notice so that we
Yep.
could have 10 days. The reason for the 4 dates in the back of on the second page of tonight's agenda is in case we couldn't all get together tonight in the back of the room, as it were. That's what it used to be. Then there was a hold date for tomorrow, just in case.
Yeah.
So we could still do these things tonight in a day.
Yeah.
The meetings on the 20th and the 25th are, if it was a short year, it would give us the ability to have a second meeting and still meet the 10-day rule for giving notice to the public of a committee meeting. So all I would say about this is that these 2 dates, the 20th and the 25th, are all clear at the board. Board has cleared these dates for our meetings. But if we were to choose to pick a date to meet more than 10 days out from tomorrow, we could do that and there would be no problem. So
Yeah,
if there are
especially-
conflicts with the 20th and the 25th, then I don't think we have any problem if we want to select a date after the 25th.
I'll also add just 2 quick things, Steve. Given the fact that the board meeting isn't until June 29th, we have a lot of extra time this year,
Yep.
which is helpful. I did just pull up your guide right now just to clarify.
You were right, Dan.
So
Within
I'm just
5
going to read.
days. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to read out to just the members, it's in section F. It's within 5 business days of the formation of the nominating committee. Each current officer or committee chair must notify the committee of his, her intention, either not to be considered or affirmatively to seek nomination. So,
My
by
apologies.
next Tuesday, they're going to let us know. No, it's okay. I'm reading the rules that you sent out.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know how the members feel. I don't know if we need to have a meeting on the 20th or 25th. If you guys want to check your schedules, I don't know if you have the ability to do it now.
I
I'm available both of those days.
Omar, Stephen, how does the 20th and 25th look for you?
I can meet on the 20th. I can't meet on the 25th. It's my anniversary and I think.
Oh, yeah, then nope.
I'm getting hot water.
All days are good for me.
Yeah.
Stephen, how is the 20th? Is the 20th is good. So you want to say the 20th? And by then at least we'll know who's applying and not applying for different positions.
Makes sense.
And we'll set out our course from there, which, you know, a lot of it's already here. Okay. Do you guys have any other items to bring up or you think we should discuss tonight?
I would just say bring calendars to the next meeting in your, I mean, whatever
Good
you
idea.
consult, because we may set dates for the next few meetings at the next meeting.
Excellent. Yep.
Thank you. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Omar, Stephen?
Dan, it might be helpful if you explain to the new people how the process works and what their role is.
Sure. So like I said before, Stephen did send out a guide, which is a very thorough explanation of what we do. But, you know, the nominating committee, we're a 5-member body. And, you know, we're here to essentially, you know, speak to other members who want to take leadership positions on the board, be it a chair of a committee or an officer of the board. And our role is to essentially have a conversation, you know, speak with the various members who are looking for leadership positions, and then report back to the board. Like every other committee, we're going to report back to the board and present to the board a slate of individuals and members who we think would be good as in the various leadership positions on this board. You know, as part of that, you know, some members may come in for another interview. We have set out in the rules also that if you're a standing committee chair or officer, you know, you don't have to come in for an interview if you don't want to. We do require anyone who hasn't served in a previous role before to come in for an interview. Of course, you know, if there is a member and 2 people are going for the same position, you know, the current chair, you know, could certainly come in, you know, and have a conversation with the committee as well. You know, our role is really to kind of report back to the board who we believe would be a good bunch of leaders, so to speak, for the following year. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone wants to add to that. I mean, that's kind of like the nuts and bolts of it. There's specifics, but I think that's just a general background of what we do.
I think at some point we also, when we get the results of the current officers and chairs as to who is going to seek the office again, right? There's some mechanism where we inform the whole board of those results.
Yeah.
It's a way of encouraging new people to come forward.
Absolutely. We always repeat and we put out there with our notices that every single year, every single position is considered an open position. You know, just because somebody's currently taking a role and they're running again, it doesn't mean that it's not a vacancy. We want folks to step up and be engaged and try to take on leadership roles. You know, our goal, you know, at least in my personal opinion, encourage members to step up and be active and be a leader on the board. And that's why a lot of the rules that we've kind of put in place over the years are to kind of help that and encourage that.
Excuse me, Dan?
Yep.
May I just clarify something?
Sure.
Tomorrow, the note to the executive committee, the notification is by Tuesday, April 19th.
Yes. And I could do a quick copy paste from last year's.
That would be great.
Yeah, and I'll just send it on. to you so you have it.
Then you're going to send it to the office and the office will send it to the exec.
Well, to the board.
Well, no, because the first thing is asking people whether they're
Well,
going to,
I see what you're saying. I
in
mean,
other words, you're going to send something to the office then.
mhm.
And then the office will send it to the whole exec committee. And this is, they are or they are not. Am I correct? Just tell me.
Yeah.
They have to say either or. They
Yes,
have to
either
say
or.
something.
That's it. So you're going to draft, you know,
Yeah.
you're going to send that to the office.
I'll grab the notice
office
from
will send
last
it
year. I'll
Yeah.
copy paste because it should be the same language and
Yeah. I'm not sure if last year, last year was the new rules. Yeah. either or. Mhm.
Well, we did it the year before, even before the.
Right. I did it 8 years ago. What was- Whatever, I was chair of it nominating. Okay, so.
I'm sure everybody's tired now.
I'm
No, thank you, Laura. We
gonna say
appreciate
good
that.
night. I'm gonna
Good
say.
night. Yep.
Okay.
So does anybody else have any questions? And any of the newer members or anyone have anything else to add to the meeting tonight? Okay.
So
Well-
just to be clear, Dan, I'm sorry, we're gonna meet on the 20th?
Yep, 20th at, I believe, 6 PM is what you sent the notice, but I'll confirm that.
7
7
in the
PM,
notice.
7 PM on the
Okay.
20th.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And what's gonna happen is the board office is gonna send out a cancellation notice with regard to the 13th and the 25th. So those are not hold dates.
Yep. Okay. If there's nothing else to add, I've got a motion to adjourn. Say goodnight to everyone.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone. Have a
Good night.
wonderful evening. Take care, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good
Thanks.
night. Bye-bye.